Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you are watching second and final part of What If Naruto Was Banished and Returned as Uzu's Shadow. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no time, let's start the story.
When Koji put on the charm, Emi's rage was blown away, and she took hold of his arm, dragging him ahead of the others and guiding him to Naruto's unique training grounds. Koji never makes sense, but every time he opens his mouth, Emi falls head over heels, Naruto said, shaking his head. That kind of trick would be impossible for me to perform on my Hinata-chan. Are you serious? Kyo and Toshiro's expressions were directed at Naruto. What? Naruto said, noticing that they were looking at him as if he were stupid. Hinata treats you the same way. She loves everything that you do, so it's rare if you irritate her. However, if you do irritate her, all you need to do is hold her in your arms and whisper your stupid, bullshit remarks to her, and she will be nice to you once more, Toshiro said. Naruto disagreed with them, not believing what they said until they arrived at Naruto's special training grounds, and Kyo nodded his head in agreement. Naruto gave the rules of their spar as soon as they arrived at the training grounds. If you go unconscious or get serious injured or any wind knocked out of you, it's over. They all nodded in agreement with this approach and assumed their receptive fighting stance. Naruto glanced at Kyo, unsure whether to get rid of him first. Naruto said, begin. To begin the battle. When Kyuubi left his body, Naruto activated his senses, making everything appear to be happening slowly when, in fact, it was all happening in a matter of seconds. When Koji reached for his kunai pouch to throw a kunai at him, Toshiro came straight at him, but because it seemed to be moving very slowly, Naruto was able to easily avoid both attacks. Seeing that Kyo and Emi weren't attacking him, he assumed they were devising a plan, so he decided to finish Toshiro and Koji before they could react. Thinking he had found a gap, Toshiro stood beside Naruto, his foot high, preparing to kick him, and he said, Naruto, you should pay attention. Toshiro wasn't finished yet, but Naruto didn't have time to pay attention because it was becoming difficult to avoid Koji's shuriken attacks, so he took out his own shuriken and enhanced them with chakra, throwing them towards Koji's shuriken so that they hit each other and broke Koji's shuriken into pieces. Naruto grinned and grabbed Toshiro's leg in midair, stopping his attack, stunning him, and then punching him in the pretty boy face sent him flying backwards. In just a few seconds, Naruto found himself facing Koji, who was also skilled in taijutsu. Koji attempted to lay Naruto flat with a powerful right fist, but instead grazed Naruto, who then kicked Koji in the stomach with enough force to send him sailing backwards into a tree, effectively knocking him out. His aunt and Kyuubi taught him how to break many hard genjutsus and many easy ones, but it was still difficult to defeat a genjutsu master like Kyo. Naruto wanted to take out Emi next, but instead he found himself in an all-white world. He didn't panic because he knew he was in genjutsu, but the only issue was how he was supposed to get the hell out. Naruto inhaled deeply, enhanced his arms with chakra, I'm not sure why, but they seemed tight, made a few hand gestures, slammed his hand against the white world, and yelled, Kai. He remained in the all-white world and nothing happened. Naruto pondered aloud, what should I do, and spent some time searching the white world of emptiness for something that would be of assistance, but there was nothing but white. Damn, why couldn't he stick me in an all-black or orange room instead? He said, frustrated by the room. Choosing to give it another go, Naruto performed the same action, but this time he used the demonic chakra that Kyuubi had left in his body and uttered the words, Kai. That broke the genjutsu effectively, but just as Naruto was released, Toshiro, engrossed in the moment, used his poison ray on him, sending a powerful gust of wind filled with poisonous gas. Naruto grabbed his stomach and coughed as the wind filled his nostrils. Then he looked up at Toshiro as though to ask, how could you? Shit Naruto. Toshiro was interrupted by Naruto, who blinked rapidly in front of him before punching him in the stomach, causing him to stoop on his fist. Naruto smirked as he whispered, Toshiro, don't underestimate me. I am the Izukage after all. Just before Toshiro fainted, Kyo was fighting Naruto and handling the blows he took fairly well. During this time, Kyo wonders why Naruto's punches weren't hurting him, even though he knows they must hurt at least a little. Then he realized how foolish he had been. Naruto was using genjutsu on him, even though he was supposed to be a genjutsu master. Kyo said, Kai, breaking the genjutsu just in time to be sliced in the back of the neck by the real Naruto, who then knocked him out. The only person left was Emi to divert her attention. Naruto had left the shadow clone, so he sat far away so she wouldn't notice him while she fought his clone. With her breathing heavily, Emi managed to free herself from Naruto's clone and took a flower out of her black hair, removing one of the petals and uttering the words, wither and grow. His clone ran in her direction, but abruptly, vines appeared out of nowhere. snagging Naruto's clone by the arms and feet and successfully capturing him. In a low voice, the real Naruto said, "Good job, Emi, but I must say you should know I'm not that easy to capture." He instantly emerged from his hiding place and stood behind Emi. Emi knew she had lost when she saw the Naruto she had captured come to life after finishing the job. Naruto tapped Emi until she passed out, then he caught her in his arm and gently placed her on the ground. A deep, foxy voice said, "I see you enjoy sparring with your friends who nowhere near as strong as you," as it walked up behind Naruto. "Kyuubi, shouldn't you be busy? What are you doing here?" Naruto asked, instantly identifying the person without turning around. Kyuubi let out a sigh. "Don't you hate when brats named Naruto are so rude to you that they just jump you with questions instead of making small talk? Well, responding to what you said earlier, even if they are not strong as me, it's good practice for them and I'm sure they enjoy sparring with me. Now will you answer my questions, you perverted fox? Name calling is not nice, Sasuke, and I'm only here in your almighty presence because a few seekers who were traveling from the Konoha area on their way back to Uzu sent me a scroll saying that they seen Konoha ninja coming this way. I thought I report that to you. Could Konoha have really agreed to let us be taken out of the bingo book that fast, or is this a setup?" Naruto asked aloud as he crossed his arms. "I could have my seekers watch over them if you like," Kyuubi replied. His eyes were lazy. "Kyuubi, I know your seekers, they would rip them apart if they think one of them takes a piss the wrong way. They are maniacs and perverts just like you." Kyuubi chuckled with laughter. "That's the great part about a kid, but since you don't want my seekers to watch them, at least let me alert my seekers who will be in Uzu to be on the watch for Konoha ninjas." Nodding, Naruto said, "Thank you, Kyuubi." Kyuubi said, "Don't bring it up, we'll see you later," and vanished into the wind. Naruto groaned after turning to face his friends. At the very least, he ought to have asked Kyuubi to assist him in carrying them home. Well, he thought, he can always create clones in order to transport his friends back to their individual homes. Naruto created 4 clones and had them pick them up since it was getting late and Hinata would probably be home. Naruto went home after his clones parted ways to drop off his friends. Naruto entered his home, threw his ninja sandals by the door, and then proceeded to the back of the house, where his bedroom was. He heard the shower running as he went into his bedroom after removing his clothes. Naruto proceeded to the bathroom that was attached to his bedroom, opened the shower door, and entered. He put his arms around his lovely, pale skin. Hinata said, "I see you're home and you brought a friend," in a sensual tone. Naruto laughed, "Yes, and he really wants to play with you, Hinata-chan. Do you think you can play with him?" Leaning into Naruto's arms, Hinata felt his erection press against her firm yet soft ass. Hinata let out a low moan before saying, "I'd love to play with him, Naruto-kun, but first, how about I wash you up?" In order for Hinata to get the soap bar, Naruto released her. She starts by cleaning his neck before moving on to his arms. Focusing on each muscle crease and line, she was gradually learning to memorize his body as if it were her own. She then approached his soldier, who was standing there paying close attention. She starts massaging his erection in her hand. After dropping the soap bar, Naruto threw back his head and cursed Hinata's deft hands. He made the decision to seize control right away because he didn't want to lose to his wife. He grabs Hinata by the waist and lifts her up while giving her a slight look. "You're trying to kill me, aren't you, woman?" he said, gazing at her with lustful eyes. When Naruto gave her an erotic look, Hinata adored it. She was so aroused by it that she turned off the shower and took her husband's hand. Dragging him into the bedroom after the shower, she released his hand and walked sensuously toward their bed, making sure to stand in front of him so he could watch her ass bounce. "Woman, I should punish you for teasing me like that. Now tell me, how do you want it, hard and fast or soft and slow?" Naruto growled. His wife loves to tease him. He walked over to the bed, fell on her, and then gently pushed her down on the bed before crawling on top of her and staring into her lavender eyes. Excitement makes Hinata shiver. "Hard and fast," she orders him. "Okay, but I don't want to hear you pleading with me to stop," warned Naruto. Hinata inquired, "When have I been known to tell you that?" After laughing, Naruto leaned in to give her a passionate, forceful kiss. They seemed to be unable to get enough of each other. Her entire mouth was ravaged by Naruto's tongue, only breaking the kiss to breathe as they continued to stare into each other's eyes. Naruto positions himself close to Hinata's nether region's caves and enters with a thrust, causing her to loudly groan his name. He continued to drive his hips back and forth without slowing down. He pounded Hinata hard and quickly, never stopping until she had had a chance to catch her breath. As she grasped Naruto's golden mane and felt him pump more force into her, Hinata struggled to form coherent syllables and could only grunt and moan his name. She was barely able to follow his movements. Nevertheless, she was in utter bliss as Naruto struck Hinata's magic spot. Her eyes rolled to the back of her head as Naruto struggled to keep from losing himself. Sweat poured off his body. Hinata yelled, OG, OD, fuck, MEI cum, ing, and she pushed Naruto to follow. He rolled to his side of the bed after collapsing on top of Hinata using all of her remaining strength. Hinata placed her head on Naruto's chest and wrapped her arms around his waist. She whispered, "I love you, Naruto-kun, and I also microwave dinners." Naruto gave Hinata a forehead kiss and said, "I love you, Hinata-chan." After Hinata succumbed to sleep, he grinned and slipped out of her grasp after putting on some boxers. He entered their kitchen and made a beeline for the microwave. The pleasant smell of tonkatsu and takoyaki welcomed Naruto as he opened the microwave when Hinata prepared these dishes. Naruto loved them and thought they were superior to ramen. After finishing the meals quickly, he began to feel exhausted and went back to his bedroom to sleep with his wife. After 2 days later, the 7 ninja made their way back to Uzu. They didn't disguise themselves this time, and 2 ninja greeted them at the gates. The other ninja asked, "Mazurka, do you think those are the Konoha ninja Kyuubi-sama told us about?" Looking at her friend with sliver blue hair, Mazurka, a woman with brown hair, said, "I think so, Jin." As she approached the Konoha ninjas, Mazurka said, "You guys are a pretty hot bunch anyways. I'm going to have to ask you guys to follow me." Jin followed. She replied, "Yes, we will show you ladies to the Azukage's office." Kakashi, Kiba, and Shikamaru turned to Jin. Jin corrected himself and smiled, indicating that it was not an error. "Oh my bad, and gentlemen, right this way," he stated. Although Kiba wanted to slap this guy's smirk off his face, he chose to ignore him and hold Akamaru close instead. The 2 ninjas gave the other ninjas a strange vibe, but they didn't question it. They became a little more at ease as they approached the same tower where the Leaf Ninja had previously visited. "Yo, lil brother, is the Azukage busy?" the woman Mazurka asked a man with green eyes and white hair as they all entered the tower. The young man stared at the woman. "Mazurka, stop calling me that at work. I'm the Azukage assistant after all, and the Azukage left a little while ago. He went to visit Shinta." Laughed, "Little Toshiro, don't get so up. Wait, if Azukage not here, what am I supposed to do with these Konoha nin? I don't want to babysit all day. I'm a member, Seekers, for crying out loud." Toshiro sighed. "How about you go find the Azukage yourself? I told you he went to visit Shinta." Jin remarked, "You're a lot of help." Toshiro remarked, "I know, I try so hard." "Come on, Konoha nin, we have to go see if we can find the Azukage." Sigh. "I could be killing idiots. Why'd I have to babysit?" Jin said, rolling his eyes, visibly irritated. Mazurka exclaimed, "Here, here," as she left the Azukage's office, the Leaf Ninja trailing in her wake. After walking in silence for a few minutes, Kakashi asked, "So what is your job, if you don't mind me asking?" When Jin shrugged, Mazurka turned to face Kakashi and said, "I'm on the interrogation and torture squad, aka Seekers. Actually, I am one of the elite, so I guess you can say I am one of the 10 elite interrogation and torture squad members." Anko was now intrigued. She was interested in anything related to torture and questioning. Anko inquired, "What does Seekers stand for?" Seekers means super, arrow, killer, elite, reaper, squad. Jin responded this time. "Nani?" exclaimed every Leaf Ninja. The ninja assumed Jin was joking when Mazurka laughed. Jin reiterated, "We are the super, arrow, killer, elite, reaper, and squad." Hanabi couldn't believe Uzu had such a thing, so he looked for any indication of humor on their face but couldn't find any. Then, wondering if Naruto would do such a thing, Sakura asked, "Who guys gave you that name?" "Kyuubi-sama, of course," Mazurka declared with pride. Kurenai rolled her eyes. She was aware that the fox was a pervert, but she would never have guessed it because she was so foolish. Jin remarked, "Good thing we didn't have to go far." As they made their way to a large structure that read Uzu Hospital, it was 3 times more attractive and twice as large as the hospital building in Konoha. "Why are we here?" Kiba inquired after rolling his eyes. Jin simply strolled around the building's back, where a koi pound was located. In addition, there were 2 benches and a small, tidy garden. Naruto was seated on one and conversing with a man who was seated beside him. Hinata and a woman conversed close to the garden. All 4 of the Leaf women murmured, "Beautiful," as they gazed at the garden and the koi pound's intricate design. Jin said, "I apologize for interrupting you, but it appears that you have some guests," and then she bowed gently to Naruto. After saying, "You're back so soon," Naruto turned to face the Konoha ninja and said, "Shinta, it was nice talking to you." Naruto approached Hinata and the other women after the man nodded. "Nice talking to you too, Kade," he said, leaning over to give Hinata a forehead kiss before saying, "Goodbye, sweetheart." Hinata remarked, "See ya, love," as Naruto started to leave with the Leaf Nin following. Azukage, if we may, we will be departing now, Jin replied. You may leave, Naruto said. Nodding, the two ninja vanished in an instant. Naruto led the Konoha ninja to the council room. After entering the Azukage office, the Leaf ninja was instructed to sit by Naruto, who was seated at the end of the circular table in the center of the room. Naruto remarked, "So tell me what the Hokage has come up for me." After giving Naruto a scroll and nodding, Kakashi said, "That scroll is agreement saying we won't attack any of your ninjas or you when you come to Konoha as long as you can keep up with your deal." As Kakashi spoke, Naruto glanced at the scroll and said, "The Hokage has sent us to escort you and your council members and daimyo to Konoha safely. We took all your ninjas out of your bingo book and we agreed to all your terms." When he saw that the scroll said everything he wanted it to, Naruto said, "We will set out in 2 hours. Until then, feel free to walk around. I will have one of my ninjas send for you when we are ready to leave." Shikamaru remarked, "Azukage, you want to leave today? We kind of just got here," adding that they were exhausted. "Don't worry, we will camp out just a few miles from here," Naruto replied. They let out a sigh after that. Kakashi remarked, "So we will be leaving in 2 hours." The Leaf ninja rose and left the council room after Naruto nodded. Naruto yelled, "Kyuubi, can you get all council members in here and the daimyo?" as soon as the Leaf ninja had left. "Sure thing, Kit, but if we are going to Konoha, who is going to watch the village?" Kyuubi said, leaping from the windowsill he was perched on. "I got a plan, and will you not sneak up on me next time?" replied Naruto. Kyuubi simply laughed without responding. After a few minutes, Kyuubi returned with the daimyo and every other council member. One of the council members said, "Azukage, may I ask what you call us for?" as they all sat down at the table. As he passed the scroll around, he said, "Yes, I called you here to discuss this." After everyone had read it, he said, "I want everyone to pick someone, or you yourself can represent your clan during the meeting at Konoha as council, and I will have 2 seekers come along with us. Katsuro will act as cage while I am gone with the other seekers and watchers at his disposal. I will also bring 3 of my most trusted watchers with me. Anyway, I would like all of you to send a representative from each of your clans at the south gate in 30 minutes, otherwise you're dismissed," Naruto replied. Naruto was left alone when the men and women of the council rose and departed. Naruto sighed, got up, and shunshin to his house. He then packed up a few things, and his beautiful wife met him 10 seconds later. As she packed her belongings as well, Hinata remarked, "It's unbelievable that we are actually returning there. I swear, I won't allow anyone to harm you," Naruto said, turning to face his wife. With a glance at Naruto, she said, "I know that, but I think we should get going." With a nod, Naruto picked up his wife's belongings and tossed them in one of his scrolls. Then, startling her, he grabbed her by the waist and pushed them to the gate. The Leaf ninja were waiting at the gate with Kyuubi and 2 of his seekers, Jin and Mazurka, Lola and her eyes and ears, as well as Ryu, Toshiro, Kyo, Emi, Koji, Kade, Shinta, 2 ninja from Hinata's watchers, a dragon-masked ninja, and wolf-masked ninja. One of Naruto's ninja had contacted the Leaf ninja. Even though they were currently only 10 seconds late, they were all waiting for Hinata and the Azukage himself. At that precise moment, Naruto and Hinata emerged in a water whirlpool. In an attempt to deliberately irritate Naruto, Lola asks in a whiny voice, "Nephew, what was taking you 2 so long? Shut up, will you, and let's go," Naruto said. Ryu blushed as Lola smirked and grabbed him, whispering something in his ear before leaping into the trees and hopping from one to the next. It was strange because the Konoha ninjas who were supposed to accompany the Uzu ninja were not taking the lead at all, even though Naruto and the others followed her. Choosing to strike up a conversation, Kakashi said, "Been a while, Ryu." For a brief moment, Ryu turned to face Kakashi and said, "Yes, it has, Kakashi." Kakashi questioned, "I see Lola is using you effectively, so you're dating?" "We're not dating, Kakashi," Ryu said, shaking his head. "Yet you like her," Kakashi challenged. "She is the daimyo," Ryu declared herself. "Is that the only thing stopping you from making your move, or is your shyness getting the best of you?" replied Kakashi. "Even if I did tell her how much I love her, you have to understand, if we had a family I would have nothing to give my family, so for me it's perfect like this," Ryu said, turning to glare at Kakashi. Unfazed by his old friend's scowl, Kakashi asked, "Is it really?" Ryu simply ignored Kakashi and accelerated. Lola pretended not to hear what the 2 men had just said, but she could clearly hear them even though they were whispering, and she was far ahead of them. She heard everything the 2 men said because, after all, she was an Uzumaki and they had special hearing. The fact that Ryu was content that they were only friends made her feel a little offended. She found it incomprehensible that he believed he would be of no use to their family. She wanted to cry because, for the first time, she truly didn't understand. She called back behind her, "Azukage, do you mind if we camp out now?" after deciding it would be best to take a break so she could sleep and consider what Ryu had said. In response, Naruto said, "Let's set up camp. The daimyo is tired." He knew Lola heard every word of Kakashi and Ryu's conversation because he heard it himself. He found it odd that she wasn't swooning over him now that he had confessed his love for her and assumed she needed time to reflect. Everyone dispersed rapidly, and eventually Konoha ninja, Toshiro, Kyo, Emi, Koji, Kade, Shinta, Hinata, and Naruto were all seated silently around a campfire. Ryu silently stood by her tent, far from the campfire, while Naruto's insane aunt chose to hit the haystack early. Kyuubi and his seekers left while Hinata's watchers watched for anything out of the ordinary. Toshiro interrupted the quiet silence by asking, "So any of you ladies single?" "No," they all said simultaneously. Naruto chuckled as Toshiro started to lower his head in surrender. "Azukage, has anyone ever told you it's not nice to laugh at you, assistant?" Toshiro replied. "Nope, they haven't, and it's funny you say that because many people often tell me to laugh at my assistant and that my assistant is a lazy bum," replied Naruto. "I am not," Toshiro sulked, "so I never got to ask last time, but how is Neji doing?" Hinata chuckled at this. "Well, right now he is one of the Konoha ninjas Tsunade has sent out to fight in war," Kakashi replied. How many people from the old Rookie 9 and Guy's team were sent out to help you guys hold up in war?" said Naruto. "All of Guy's team including Guy and Shino, Shoji, and Ino all were sent out," Kakashi said. With a contemplative expression, Hinata said, "You guys must really be in a pinch then." Shikamaru responded, "Yes, we are, which is why we truly need your guys' assistance." Kakashi interrupted by asking, "So how does it feel to be the Azukage?" "It was stressful, tiring, hard work and crazy," Naruto remarked. "What?" Kiba asked. "That's how it feels to be the Azukage, and I think I speak for all cages when I say that's how it feels to be a cage," Naruto joked. "So I'm confused you don't like being Azukage," Hanabi said. Naruto laughed. "No, I love being Azukage because everything fun, exciting, and new is always hard work, crazy, stressful, and tiring." Kurenai remarked, "I see, so it's a bittersweet job." "Exactly," said Naruto. Toshiro questioned, "But I make up for all the bad parts, right, Azukage?" "You most likely make it worse," Emi remarked. Toshiro pouted. "Why do you have to be mean to me all the time?" "Because you're an idiot," Kade remarked. "Agreed," Kyo, Koji, and Shinta said. "Jerks," Toshiro remarked, turning his back on the group. One of his ninjas said, "Danzo, what are we going to do about the nine-tail brat?" He inquired, "What do you mean?" The ninja repeated, "Well, you heard the Hokage. The nine-tail brat is coming here to kill you." As soon as one of the Hokage's ninja had summoned Kaharu, Danzo had known something was up. He chose to act foolish, but after disguising himself, he followed Kaharu and the ninja into the council chamber, where he overheard the entire Hokage plan. Danzo grinned. "I know, and what a better thing to do than let the nine-tail brat kill me." The ninja with whom he was speaking looked stunned and said, "What?" "Stop questioning me. I must prepare for my death and funeral," Danzo replied. When night fell and the sun rose again, the ninja were awakened and began their journey. Naruto and the others moved closer to Konoha, anticipating a surprise day. Naruto was ecstatic about returning to Konoha during this entire period. Although he did a good job of hiding this from the Leaf Ninja, his own ninja could tell he was a little strange. His wife was aware that Naruto was not particularly eager to return and assist the organization that had expelled him, but she also understood that he was a man with high morals, and that his morals included helping a friend in need. He still had a few people that Naruto considered family, even though a good half of Konoha didn't like him. Hinata was aware that this was a major factor in Naruto's decision to assist them. Hinata didn't worry too much and did her best to divert her husband's attention and reassure him that everything was fine because Naruto wasn't the kind to let his friends and family suffer just because everyone else was. Akamaru barked in agreement as he followed Kiba as he sailed out of the tree. "Looks like we're a few moments away from good old home," he said. Memories of the place he once called home started to flood his mind as Naruto leapt from the tree and landed gracefully on the ground. He had to pause for a moment as the gate came into view. Naruto gazed intently at Konoha's gates. The person next to him, Hinata, squeezed his hand. He looks over at her even though she wasn't sure herself. Hinata assured him that everything would be alright as she smiled and looked directly into his eyes. The concern in their uncertain Azukage was visible to the Whirlpool ninjas. Naruto and his ninja were slowly pushing forward when the Leaf Ninja, who had now entered the gate, turned around. Izumo happened to get up from the check-in desk to see why the escorts were taking so long. but that was before the daimyo kicked Naruto in the back, sending him flying onto him. Naruto leapt up from behind Izumo and pulled him up with his hand. He turned to scream at the daimyo, but she was already on her way to the Hokage office. As Naruto watched his aunt's form vanish, he growled, "Why must she try to embarrass me all the time?" Hinata understood that Lola's only goal was for Naruto to get better, so she would occasionally use physical violence to reassure him that everything would be alright. As she put her arm around her husband's, she shook her head and reassured him, "Sweetheart, you know she means no harm." Hinata understood that Lola's only goal was for Naruto to get better, so she would occasionally use physical violence to reassure him that everything would be alright. Kyuubi countered, "No, she does, she wants to damage your skull," recalling all the times she has kicked Naruto. Kurenai, concerned about how far ahead the woman had come, suggested, maybe we should get going before the daimyo gets to the Hokage office before us." After Naruto gave a nod, they proceeded to the Hokage office. Naruto looked around Konoha once more, as if nothing had changed. However, it seemed as though everything had changed. It was almost as if he and Pervy Sage had just returned from their 2.5-year training. There are still faint traces of cheap sake in the air, along with the smells of dango, cinnamon buns, barbecue, and ramen. In addition, the air was filled with the odor of the disinfectant spray that the hospital overused. When they eventually arrived at the Hokage's building, he was reminded of how carelessly he had rushed in. As he walked up the stairs, he tightened his grip on Hinata's hand while lining the walls with images of the Hokages from 1st to 5th. Then they came to this single door, which Naruto knew would lead to the office of the Hokage. Kakashi knocked until the Hokage gave him the all-clear. It felt like the old wooden door was opening painfully slowly at the rate it was going. Naruto believed it would never be open. The door finally opens all the way, creaking like an eerie old Halloween house except for one individual. Naruto paid no attention to anything. He saw Tsunade, the Hokage, the Princess Slug, and, most importantly, his Obaa-chan. He was uncertain about what to do, so he walked over to shake her hand and pretended that he was a normal cage. Tsunade's perspective when the door opened and her cherished adopted son appeared. Tsunade almost suffered a heart attack when he approached her and extended his hand. She felt her heart break into tiny fragments because she wanted to jump up and give him a big hug. She preferred an embrace and a "Hello, Obaa-chan." Over a handshake. However, she was going to shake his when she realized she had to pretend to be a cage. As if to emphasize her point, Hinata crossed her arms and shook her head as she said, "Wow, a handshake? You guys haven't seen one another for 5 years. I know you can do better than that." Lola smiled and said, "I know, sheesh, I thought you guys had a mother-son type of bond, not some macho man type of thing." Naruto opened his arms wide for an embrace and grinned at the Hokage. She gave him a tight hug, almost as if she was scared to let go, and a tear ran down her cheek. "I missed you," she said in a low voice. She let him go and just stared at him. After gathering herself, he appeared to her like the leader he ought to be. Naruto smiled and said, "Hokage, it's nice to see you after so long." Despite her disappointment with his word choice, Tsunade continued to smile. Here was her favorite brat. The joy she felt now could not be ruined by anything. She turned to Hinata, who was standing with her fellow Whirlpool ninjas, and said, "Good to see you to Azukage, and good to see you to Hinata, Ryu," she added. Tsunade was a little in awe of her baby cousin Ryu, but she chose not to show it. "We should probably get to the council room now so we can have this talk, right?" she said, clearing her throat. Naruto consented to Tsunade's office, removing the ninja file. However, Tsunade stopped him before he could go. She gave him a set of locking keys. "These were your parents. You can sell it if you choose. It's up to you, or if you just want to go through what's in the house, that is also your choice." Council room in Konoha. Every ninja went into the office in the council room and sat down. Tsunade ordered Kakashi and the others to get the council. After everyone had been seated, the council arrived promptly, and the Hokage was the first to speak after everyone had seated themselves. "Now, Azukage, say you know someone who works under Danzo who has a seal on his tongue preventing him from speaking out. May I ask who may this may be?" replied Tsunade. "Yes, in fact, if you could bring him in here so we can behead Danzo, it would be good. His codename is Sai," replied Naruto. "Sai?" Tsunade asked. "Yes. I always have been good friends with Sai as well as a guy by the name of Kido along with Jimby. If you need more, let me know." Naruto laughed. He was aware that Danzo was disliked by many elderly root ninja. In addition to getting them to talk, many of the council members started to question how Naruto knew about some of Danzo's top men. Tsunade said, "All right, I'll call them in here." Then she made Enbu appear by snapping her fingers. She instructed them to immediately bring the following ninja here. After the ninja had entered the room, Tsunade You are here for information on Danzo the Azukage of Whirlpool. A very trusted seal master wants to take the seal's place on your tongue off. Then you are to tell us of any corruption Danzo is doing. The three ninja looked at the Azukage and nodded. Homura insisted, Azukage, do your thing, while you waited for Naruto to fail. Naruto grinned and rose from his chair, but not before taking a quick look at the three ninjas. If you don't trust me or don't want me to do this, I won't, he stated. Even though Naruto knew he would succeed, he still desired their trust. Azukage, I only trust you with my life. After all, you are a dear friend, replied Sai. Both of the other ninjas gave a nod of agreement. Sai didn't trust anyone, and neither did the other two, which shocked the Konoha council. However, Naruto and Sai had developed a close friendship. As a result, Naruto surreptitiously stayed in touch with Sai. After his departure, he soon met Jimmy and Kido, who also became Naruto's close friends. When Sai was meeting Naruto one day, Jimmy and Kido had followed him. He was an enemy ninja. I was afraid he believed they turned him in. After he clarified that he was not an enemy ninja and what he was doing, rather, they expressed their strong disapproval of Danzo to Naruto and Sai, and they soon became good friends. Naruto quickly performed a series of tiger, goat, snake, sheep, bear, lion, and a few other demonic and unidentified signs. After observing their faith in him, he then placed the middle finger and the pad of his pointer at each of their necks. Something he muttered was only audible to Kyuubi. A tiny white light emerged and vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Naruto asserted, the seal should be removed now, after closely examining Jinbe, Sai, and Kido. That's it, Kaharu said, blinking at what she had observed. Yes, it was a bit ostentatious, but Danzo made a seal that couldn't be that simple to break. Yes, Naruto said to her, maintaining a straight face that conveyed his seriousness. If Danzo made a... That seemed too simple. Naruto bragged, excuse me, Hiashi, but I don't think you are a seal master who has surpassed all human seal masters. The two glared at each other, wanting to rip the other person's throat out. Hinata took a moment to glance at her father but remained silent, and Hiashi clenched his teeth and glared at Naruto without saying anything. Boss Kaharu said, well, speak if you know something. Danzo. In other places, Kabuto Orochimaru exulted, I finally understand what it's like to be Orochimaru. He was surrounded by two masked individuals in a pitch-black cavern. They stood in a circle and heard the dripping sounds of water falling off the cave. They had a plan. I sent the last 3 weasels from Akatsuki to go take care of him, but they didn't come back. They most likely failed. Madara, one of the masked ninja, cautioned Kabuto Orochimaru, adding, we are not out of the clearing yet. I'm sure that Nine-Tail Brat is up to something. Another voice, that of the second masked ninja, asked, what does that have to do with us out of the clearing? I despise mortals, he reflected. Madara said to the second masked ninja, well, if Danzo did his part, you will see, as a smile appeared behind his mask. Council room in Konoha. Sai and the others completed their explanation of Danzo's snake in the grass behavior. They describe how Danzo had been secretly collaborating with Madara and Orochimaru. Prior to eradicating the Hyuga clan and assuming complete dictatorship over the council, Danzo had planned to kill the Hokage who had assumed power in order to gain the village's trust. He also intended to drag Konoha through the worst of this war and then, in some way, make himself appear to be the hero. In addition, he had a hand in the deaths of numerous leaf ninjas. The council forced Sai to pause and simply choose to get Danzo because there was so much more. Naruto remarked, now you see what I mean, my dear friends, following Sai's outstanding speech. We still need evidence, Kaharu said, stating that he was unwilling to murder a friend due to the nine-tailed fox boy. All right, Sai said, passing a few documents to the council. I took these from Danzo. They are lies he told and deaths he covered up. The documents that Sai gave them were examined by Kaharu and the council. Danzo's trademark signature appears on every document, along with information that should never be recorded. That bastard, Homura yelled. He was shocked that Danzo would have the audacity to turn on Konoha. Can ya get him in here? His death is waiting, said a very irritated Lola. Ever since she entered this village, she has been waiting to murder him. The Hokage caught everyone's attention. Justice was waiting for her. Everyone who supports Danzo's demise says I, Tsunade uttered. I, the council men said in unison. All of them were prepared to manipulate Danzo. After declaring, well, the decision is made, Tsunade snarled for one of her ninja to materialize and then said, bring me Danzo. The ninja nodded and went to get Danzo. He returned with a startled Danzo, not disappointing them. Danzo asked, what is the meaning of this, Hokage? Even though he was already aware of the explanation. Danzo, you betrayed Konoha and the council has decided your punishment, death, said Tsunade. As soon as she finished speaking, Lola leapt to her feet, quickly unsheathed her concealed sword, and was behind Danzo in a flash, pressing the icy metal against his rough neck while squinting her eyes at her awaiting victim. "Any last words, hot stuff?" Lola said to the man. The speed at which the daimyo moved in her proximity to Danzo nearly astounded everyone. They questioned whether she was a daimyo or ninja, and whether she truly intended to kill him in the council room. Danzo said, "Besides, you are going to go to hell and you will never bring them back." "No I don't," with a dual meaning and an evil gleam in his eyes. Lola clearly understood what he meant. Muted. "So be it," she said. Red-hot blood shoots from his severed head as she swiftly and blindingly moves the blade across his throat. She knew she hadn't actually killed Danzo, so she rolled her eyes at the dead man before briefly closing them. Kyuubi, Hinata, and Naruto were also aware. Even though it wasn't Danzo, they decided that Naruto wouldn't say anything. The body was a clone. Naruto knew a clone of blood. Most shinobi wouldn't use a clone because it was careless and could leave a person severely weak because blood clones drain a lot of power. A Jonin-skilled ninja may appear to be genin after using one. He was aware that the real Danzo was not in Konoha at the moment, but he also knew that he was weak. The daimyo of Whirlpool had just killed the Danzo, and the Konoha ninja were stunned. The Hokage was astounded, too. Why you do that?" Tsunade inquired. Lola grinned as she explained, "If I am not mistaken, Hokage, I was given privilege to kill him." Despite her internal grimace, she was determined to murder the real Danzo. Everyone's perspiration stopped. The daimyo posed a threat. He, Hokage, my daimyo is only doing what is promised." "Nay," Naruto said in an attempt to comfort himself. When Naruto laughed, Tsunade bit her cheek to prevent a tiny smile from appearing. It had been a long time since she had heard his laugh. His laugh was one of the simple things she missed. "I guess you're right," Tsunade replied. After all, she kept her word to Danzo. Despite the fact that many of the council members had witnessed blood and death numerous times before, Naruto said, "Then I know you guys are going to want to clean this up, so why don't we call this meeting a day, picking up again tomorrow?" They were still making a lot of effort to avoid vomiting after seeing the bloody mess on the walls and floor of the council room because the blood was all over the place. Sure," replied Tsunade. She wanted to spend more time with him. Despite her disappointment, she assumed, though, that spending it in the council room was not the best option. The room started to empty. On the other hand, Hiashi Hyuga was unable to depart since someone had seized his collar. Hanabi, Tsunade, and the Whirlpool Ninja were the only people still in the room, and they were in awe of what they were witnessing. We're all hoping that this won't ruin their upcoming partnership. Lola said, "Hiashi, I'm staying at your place," while clinging to his collar. The fact that she simply chose to remain at his house astounded everyone in the room, like she was the owner of Konoha. Hiashi made a fool of himself by arguing, "What? No way, Lola," in an attempt to break free from her hold. Lola, who was furious at Hiashi's actions, questioned, "What do you mean, asshole?" "I mean no, you and the Whirlpool Ninja aren't staying at my place," shouted Hiashi. "She has no right to tell me what to do." "Don't get your balls in a knot, Hiashi. It's only going to be me and my ninja, and Ryu nephew and his ninja can find somewhere else," Lola said, fully understanding why Hiashi would have preferred that she not stay. Everyone's mouths were hanging open now for a variety of reasons. She was leaving them in order to find a place to sleep too. She simply warned Hiashi not to get caught up in his own troubles. Even though they were arguing most of the time, it was odd that she and Hiashi were conversing. Hiashi Hyuga didn't speak to anyone. He was on the verge of saying, "Yes," but changed his mind. No, you still can't stay." Lola was nagged. "Hiashi, you turned into such a coward," and she decided to try something different. She was aware that Hiashi detested the term, coward. "I am not a coward, Lola," Hiashi uttered, perplexed by her statement. "You are too. You can't even let people stay at your own place because your clan runs you like a little bitch. They own you and every single move you make, and I thought it was supposed to be the opposite." "So much for clan leader," laughed Lola, knowing that she had caused a stir. Instead, everyone thought Hiashi would try to hit Lola or say something hurtful to her. "No, they don't, and to show you I want you and your little ninja to stay at my place," Hiashi said, oblivious to the fact that he had fallen asleep. Everybody perspires. Have Lola and Hiashi Hyuga just deceived each other into spending the night at his house? Lola called out, releasing his collar. "Great, I knew you would see it my way. Well, I'm tired, so I'll be at the Hyuga manor," and then she hurried away with her ninja. Hiashi grinned, but as he realized what had happened, it gradually started to disappear. He almost screamed, "She tricked me," and then he ran after her, making the people who were left behind perspire. Naruto, who was watching the two, remarked, "Whoa, I know Lola said she was friends with Hiashi, but who knew she could play him like that?" Hinata remarked, "I'm shocked myself at how easily her cruel father could be duped." Feeling anxious in front of her sister and her friends, Hanabi asked, do you guys want to go out and get something to eat well if you still have an appetite? Naruto grinned broadly and said, I'm always hungry, appreciating the food suggestion. The happy Hinata added, I don't mind getting a bite to eat while hanging out with Hanabi. Most of the other Whirlpool ninjas said, me too, in response. Naruto remarked, good, then we eat, see ya later Hokage, as the ninjas eventually left. The Hokage observed their departure. She was happy to see that even though Naruto had grown up, he remained the endearing ninja. He wouldn't have come to save her ass and the rest of Konoha if he had destroyed that wonderful personality of his. It seemed like the brat was always the one saving Konoha, and she laughed harshly without him. She questions what Konoha would have done. She questioned how anyone else could have endured all of the abuse from the villagers and remained so tall throughout. Furthermore, she didn't think anyone else could have convinced her to return to Konoha as the Hokage. No, she was aware that only Naruto Uzumaki was capable of such a feat. She told herself that it was only Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto on their way to eat, Hanabi and the group encountered nearly every leaf ninja. They all ended up at Yuki's, a brand new eatery in Konoha. They were having light conversation while they waited for their food, which they had ordered. Ah, that's such a lovely story, the women in the group exclaimed. Since they were all curious about Naruto's proposal to her, Hinata had explained it to them. Curious Kurenai asked, are you going to have kids soon? Hinata has always struck her as the mother type. Everyone seemed to enjoy asking this one question, and Naruto was unable to figure out why he wanted children, but right now he had to focus on getting rid of Madara, Danzo, and that Kabuto thing. He was very concerned about having children while those three were still living because he always thought someone would try to harm them, but he was aware that having children would always put him in danger. Hinata, the leader of Watchers and a key figure in the Uzumaki military force, had desired children. She was aware that having children would limit her ability to perform all of her ninja skills, but she also understood that ninjas don't live long lives. She did wish to have children soon, but she was unsure of when. Hinata and Naruto gave honest answers, saying, I don't know. Moegi cooed, picturing little pictures of Naruto's future children. Why not? They would be so cute. I can see it now. Little Naruto look alike with Hinata's attitude, or Hinata look alike with Boss's attitude, she said. Moegi's vision of his and Hinata's future offspring made Naruto laugh. He was still aware that the Konohamaru Corps still called him Boss. He was mistakenly called that more than once by Moegi, Udon, and Konohamaru, but they had all matured. Moegi now had a very feminine appearance. Her hair was in 2 long ponytails and had grown significantly like a hairband. She wore a leaf headband to his dismay. Her disposition somewhat reminds him of Sakura in her younger years. Additionally, Konohamaru's hair grew out, and he began to look a lot like Asuma. He belted his black ninja pants with his leaf headband. In addition, he wore an orange shirt underneath a Jonin jacket. Udon wore a Jonin jacket and Kakashi-style pants, and his hair covered his leaf headband. His quiet demeanor persisted. Naruto remarked, Hee Hinata acting like me. I like the sound of that, as he began to think of all the practical jokes he could teach his daughter before she turned into a ninja. He would then force his daughter to act like a ninja once she became one. That would not be good at all. Kyuubi disagreed, considering all the disruptions he would experience while attempting to conduct research, or how he would likely be the one following the brat around to ensure proper behavior. Because he didn't like Kyuubi's remark, Naruto asked, why would that now be good? Because everyone knows how you annoy the shit out of people when they're doing important stuff. A kid with your personality would do the same. You need a kid with all Hinata's traits, said Kyuubi. If they acted like Hinata, he wouldn't mind seeing them have puppies. Everyone chuckled because they thought Kyuubi might be correct. Hinata stated, I think a little Naruto would be just perfect, in a straightforward manner. Toshiro included, of course you do. You are in love with the idiot, and shook his head. Toshiro's right, Sakura and Kade unanimously said. Hinata remarked, that's not the only reason, as if she were losing a battle to her friends. Naruto exclaimed, yay, you tell them honey, relieved that his wife was supporting him. Hinata's eyes grinned as she undressed her husband. I think Naruto has good traits. For example, his confidence and ability to never give up would be good for the children, plus he has handsome facial features, she said. Oh brother, Emi moaned, rolling her eyes at Hinata's exaggerated behavior. The waitress arrived and set their food down in front of them. Just as Naruto was ready to reply to everyone's jesting, he let Hinata place his order because he was annoyed that they didn't have ramen and disappointed that they didn't serve any unusual food. He still wanted ramen even though what she ordered didn't seem all that bad. Naruto pouted while playing with the food he had ordered. I still don't see why we couldn't go to Ichiraku ramen shop, he said. Sweat drips from everyone. Naruto currently resembled a child more than the Izukage for the Whirlpool Ninja. This was kind of normal. They were aware that Naruto was never serious unless it was absolutely necessary. "Dumbass, do you see all the people here? We wouldn't be able to all sit in Ichiraku," said Shikamaru. There were many people present. There were Konohamaru Core, Sakura, Hanabi, Kiba, Kurenai, Kakashi, Enko, Shikamaru, and Shino, in addition to all of Naruto's Whirlpool Ninja. "Shikamaru, don't call me a dumbass, you lazy idiot," Naruto smirked as he said it. Shikamaru couldn't resist grinning as well. Everyone continued to talk as the chatter continued. A hand, however, touched Naruto's thigh. He bit into his food slowly while glancing over to see what his wife was up to. She was biting into some kind of fish food with a cunning Cheshire smirk. He was aware that his wife was stroking his thighs in an attempt to make fun of him. They frequently played the game together. During a private meal, Naruto would tease his wife under the table in an attempt to drive her insane. She would do the same, and they would both try to avoid having an orgasm in front of the entire store. However, he felt that Hinata was quite daring to do this in front of everyone he knew. Then Naruto's cunning mind had a very sinister thought. In front of all their friends, he was going to force her to have an orgasm. While he was thinking of a naughty plan, he couldn't help but smile foxy. Hinata's lap was touched by Naruto. However, Hinata was the only one who noticed, giving Naruto a "What are you doing?" look that he chose to ignore. Hinata was taken aback when he suddenly put his hand in her pants, causing her to groan softly. He could only smile when she turned to face him while holding his eating utensils to put food in his mouth. She has one hand in her pants. She took sharp breaths as he started to gently trace the rim of her panties. She gives a loud gasp and bites her lip as he gently rubs her nub with his finger in her panties. Everyone stopped to gaze at Hinata. With his finger still in her trousers, Naruto caressed Hinata and asked naively, "Are you all right, dear?" First she gave him a half glare, then she whimpered softly. She stammered, trying to control her breathing as Naruto accelerated the pace. I'm okay," she said. The Konoha ninjas pondered Hinata's stuttering, failing to notice what Naruto was doing to her beneath the table. "I suppose some old habits are difficult to break." As Naruto increased the speed and inserted a second finger into his wife's moist pussy, he tried not to snicker at her face. "Are you sure you're okay, sweetheart? You look a little hot," he said. "I swear I'm okay," she uttered, suppressing a groan she wasn't sure she could handle again. Naruto used a third finger to work his way around Hinata's snatch as if it were his own body because he truly wanted to push her over the edge. When Hinata screamed, "Oh God," everyone almost fell out of their seats. Enko said, "You okay there, Hinata?" as he gave Hinata a peculiar look. "Yeah, this FF food is JJ just SSSOFFF fucking good," Hinata uttered in a moaning tone while attempting to look convincing by putting some of the fish in her mouth. She received odd looks from everyone, who were still unaware of what was happening beneath the table. A strange Hanabi said she didn't understand why her sister felt the need to shout out how delicious the food was, or why she was suddenly stuttering. "Is really that good, Hina?" inquired Naruto, naively examining his wife. She yelled, "Oh God yes," once more, causing Naruto to chuckle. Sakura remarked, "Dang Hinata, you make me think I should have gotten the mahi-mahi," questioning whether the fish was truly that good. Naruto felt her walls tighten against his fingers, indicating that she was getting close to the edge. "Yay. I mean if it's that good maybe I should have gotten some ne Hina-chan," he said, staring into her eyes. Hinata was only able to nod. She could sense her approach. She only needed to come. She didn't care to be in a restaurant with all of her friends anymore. The internal conflict she was experiencing was simply too intense as Naruto's fingers moved in and out of her moist hot hole. She grasped the table. She didn't even finish because she arrived with a mess in her pants and was certain that it was all over Naruto's fingers. "Oh shit, I am going to you," she said. Knowing that he caused her to climax in front of their friends in this restaurant, Naruto smirks. Naruto pretended to be concerned as he said, "Hey Hina, you're all right, you're sweating and looking really agitated." She gave Naruto a lazy glare, but she couldn't help but smile because he was so evil. She said, "I told you before baby, I perfectly fine," without even stuttering. Kyuubi shook his head. After all, he could smell arouses and such, and he damn well knew what the brat had done to Hinata. He was also aware of it, but he chose to remain silent because, well, he was a pervert and didn't give a shit. He simply believed that this would benefit his research. Since Naruto didn't seem overly concerned, the others simply dismissed Hinata's strange behavior, not understanding why she was acting that way. "If you say so, but it seems that mahi-mahi is orgasmic. Mind if I have a taste?" Naruto said, appearing to be a cute puppy. Seeing the pun in his statement, Hinata said, "Sure Naruto," and she put some of the finish in her husband's mouth. The couple's flawless harmony left the group speechless. Shortly after that, they determined that it would be best for them to take a leave of absence. Naruto had to use the restroom first, though as a result, the ninja waited outside the eatery for Naruto, who was secretly cleaning his lover's excess fluid off his hand. Lola said, "Hey Hinata-chan," as she suddenly showed up. Hinata looked a little stressed as she mentioned the Hyuga place, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. "Lola, I thought you were at the Hyuga Manor," she said. "I was, but I got bored and decided to go on a short stroll. What are you guys up to?" she replied. She and Naruto were acting strangely at the dinner table, so they decided to leave, Kyuubi candidly replied. Lola remarked, "Oh really, you guys are perverts." With the exception of Hinata, Lola, and Kyuubi, everyone appeared perplexed. "What are you talking about?" Kiba asked, not noticing anything that Hinata or Naruto were doing. Kyuubi smiled as he said, "You didn't notice, and I thought you had a good sense of smell. The Azukiage and his wife were being awful naughty, but you didn't miss it." "Kyuubi," exclaimed Hinata, who did not want him to give the group access to her personal information. Kyuubi grinned lecherously and said, "Hey, don't act like you're embarrassed. You weren't embarrassed when Naruto had his hands down your pants." Everyone looked at Hinata and flushed, as though to ask, "Is that true?" Hinata shrugged off their looks and said, "What, did you not really think the mahi-mahi was all that good?" Everyone reddens 10 times more. She was moaning because of this. Naruto said, "Hey guys, I'm done. We can go now," leaving the restaurant completely unaware of their earlier exchange. Since they were aware of what he had done to Hinata, many of his friends were unable to look at him without blushing. "Hey pervert," Lola uttered. Naruto gave his aunt a narrowed look. "Auntie, what are you doing here and why your guards are not with you?" She lied when she said, "I told them to take a break." However, Naruto saw right through her. "Yay, right, they wouldn't leave alone. You must have ditched them. They're probably looking all over you right now as we speak," he yelled. Ryu and Hiashi ran up to Lola as if to demonstrate his point. "Lola, Daimyo." Both Ryu and Hiashi yelled simultaneously. Lola let out a sigh. Her childlike whimper, "What do you guys want? You're boring," made everyone perspire. They all asked themselves, how can she be the daimyo? "Boring or not daimyo, you can't just take off without us knowing where you're going or at," said Ryu. Hiashi added, "Yes, if you're going to stay at my place, you are best to stay put," speaking to her like a child. "I'm not kid jackasses," she screamed. Naruto and Hiashi both said, "Could have fooled me," causing each to glare at the other before turning away. "In any case, I believe it would be best if we return to the Hyuga Manor," Ryu said, and Hiashi nodded in agreement before turning to face Hanabi and seemingly saying, "You come too." "Only if we can get some sake on the way," said Lola. "No," Hiashi said, refusing to let any sake into his home. She stated, "Then I'm not coming." Ryu's eyes were beseeching as he gazed at Hiashi. Hiashi, fed up with his baby acting friend, said, "All right, let's go." Lola said, "Whatever, bye kids," and turned to leave. After saying goodbye to everyone and kissing Konohamaru on the cheek, Hanabi hurried to catch up with them. Naruto and his group were asked by Kakashi, "So where are you guys going now?" "Hokage gave me the keys to my father's place. She said I could sell it, but I think it will do for a good sleeping place tonight," Naruto said. Asking Kakashi, "You know where it is?" he answered, "I saw it enough times when I lived here." Kakashi said, "K, well goodbye then," and the others followed suit before departing. Manor Hyuga. When Lola made them both carry bags full of sake before deciding it was enough to take home, Hiashi and Ryu were feeling the blunt end of her wrath. She then picked up the Hanabi who was nearby and started talking to her until they arrived at the Hyuga Manor. The rest of Lola's ninja appeared relieved that she was safe and back once they were inside, but they blanched at the sight of the sake Ryu and Hiashi were carrying. Lola asked to speak with Hiashi privately after he and Ryu had put down the sake, and he granted her request. They then entered Hiashi's private office. He had a sizable private office. Hiashi took a seat beside his mahogany desk in his black swivel chair. Hiashi pretended to be utterly bored as he asked, "What is it you want to speak to me about, woman?" "First of all, Hiashi, my name is Lola and we are not friends anymore, so I want you to call me by appropriate title, which is Daimyo," she stated. He smiled and said, "Daimyo, why are you staying at the Hyuga Manor if we are no longer friends?" He should have known better, but he was certain she would apologize out of fear of being expelled. Lola said, "Because I heard it was one of the nicest places in Konoha, but my place is way better, but since it's the nicest it will do," without feeling ashamed of the truth. "Daimyo," Hiashi inquired, "is this all you want to talk about?" "No, it is not. I want to talk about you and Hinata," she replied. Staring at her, he said, "What about her?" with a harsh tone. Lola stared him in the eye and refused to back down from his icy glare. "She is your daughter Hiashi and you've been an ass to her. I want you to apologize," she said. "Apologize for what? That girl has been nothing but a failure to this clan with all her weak feelings." Then she up and runs off with that boy, creating more dishonor to the Hyuga name, he yelled as he slammed his. Hiashi was forced to recline in his chair after Lola snarled and slapped him across the face. "Hiashi, Hinata is stronger than the girl you once knew. That boy she fell in love with, my nephew, is now Azuka's cage, and if you and everyone didn't run him out here he could have been your cage, which I glad he didn't, because now I have a strong confident leader to run my country. Not only that, Hinata would been a great ninja if you wouldn't have pushed her so hard and put her down so much before she came to the village. She had met up with Ryu, who trained her for 1 year Hiashi. And she was already strong enough to handle Jonin level ninja. Don't give me some bullshit about her being weak. River would have never cared about weakness. If River was here she wouldn't let you do that," Lola was screaming. When his deceased wife's name was mentioned, Hiashi cast his gaze downward. If his wife found out how he treated his children, he knew she would be furious. However, if he knew River already from Lola's summoning jutsu, he most likely shit his pants. His goal was to ensure their success. All he wanted was for them to succeed. He gently stroked his stinging cheek. Where Lola had slapped him earlier, he questions how strong his daughter truly was and how Ryu was able to teach her so much while he was unable to. "I just didn't want my daughter to fail in life, Daimyo. I wanted her to succeed. Many people wanted her dead when they heard I had a child. I also wanted to make sure if I died earlier like River that she be strong enough to survive without me and be able to take care of her younger sister. I only wanted the best," Hiashi stated sadly now that he knows what he did terrible. "Hiashi, I can understand not wanting her to fail, but what you did to her did not help her one bit. It only hurt. She still wants your praise even if she doesn't admit. I know it because I've been around her long enough. I could tell when she sees you it pains her not to be able to smile and walk up to you. It pains her for you to look at her with cold eyes like you do," Lola continued. "I know now, Daimyo, but what can I do?" he replied. "What can you do? Hiashi, you have to first apologize whether she accepts it or not, then you have to accept her being with Naruto, and finally you have to tell her you miss her and want to start a better relationship with her and her husband," said Lola. Hiashi wrinkled his nose and said, "I can do all of that, but I don't like that boy." He was sympathetic to the boy part. "Hiashi, why not? And you better not say because you think he is a demon. He is your dead best friend's son," said Lola. Hiashi scowled as he explained, "No, it is not because he had Kyuubi in him. It is because he is a boy and he has his paws on Hinata." For the first time, Lola burst out laughing while in Hiashi's presence. Hiashi simply stared at her strangely, wondering if she had gone insane or if she was going to kill him. "What are you laughing at?" inquired Hiashi, who was fed up with being left out. "You're an overprotective father. I never expected you to use that excuse. If only I knew that years from now that stupid Hiashi pants would be such an overprotective dad," laughed Lola. "I am not being overprotective. Boys are dangerous, Daimyo. That is the whole reason I have spies watch when Konohamaru and Hanabi go out on dates. I can't have him doing anything unacceptable," Hiashi responded. "Like you and River," she grinned. "We were grown-ups, thank you very much, and we knew what we were doing also. I was not some evil little boy," said Hiashi. "If you say so, but I remember River telling me and Kushina about your guys' sex tales and they didn't seem something a good boy would do. Also, let me remind you that Hinata is not a child, she is a woman, so there is no need to worry. Plus, she is a married woman. As for your other daughter, she is almost a woman also, and every girl and woman is going to have sex at some point in their lives. Unless they are nuns, hell, they might have it with a stranger or with the love of their life, doggy style or missionary, but they all did, so get over it," she said with a grin. With pictures he didn't need or want running through his head, Hiashi appeared genuinely embarrassed. He gave Lola a scowl. He was certain now that he would not eat tonight. He said, "I didn't need to hear all of that, Lola," disregarding her statement that she should be addressed by her first name. But Lola remembered and punched him in the face, sending Hiashi flying from the chair, striking his head against the wall, and then sliding down to the floor. He asked, holding his already swollen lip, "What was that for?" She crossed her arms and glared down at him, saying, "I told you not to call me Lola. It's Daimyo to you. You can only call me Lola after you apologize to Hinata-chan." Ryu rushed into the room to check on Hiashi. After hearing the sound of him hitting his head, Lola simply shoves past him out the door, leaving him to stare after her vanishing figure because she is still upset with him for what he said the other day. He asked his longtime friend, "What happened here, Hiashi?" "She sent me flying because I called her Lola instead of Daimyo. Help me up," Ryu was told. Ryu helped Hiashi off the ground and shook his head. Hiashi walked back to his chair and asked, "What do you do to get your girlfriend angry at you?" If you're talking about Lola, she isn't my girlfriend. Besides, you're the one that made her furious. May I remind you? You're the one who was on the floor, Ryu exclaimed. You two aren't going out by now. I could have sworn you two would have been at it by now. I mean, everyone knew you both liked each other, although I was on the ground from her unexpected punch which caught me off guard. It's obvious she is upset with you, and Ryu, don't be so brainless. Lola was definitely mad at you. I doubt if she wasn't mad at you she would have made you help carry the sake. Also, the way she pushed past you just now screams I hate your guts, Hiashi said. Ryu murmured. Why does everybody always assume we're dating? I know she is mad at me, Hiashi. I kind of figure that, but I don't know why. Who knows why she is mad at you? She is a woman after all. The real question is why you two aren't going out, Hiashi inquired. I can't go with her, Hiashi. She is the daimyo of Whirlpool. I would not be the breadwinner in the family, and I don't think many of the villagers would like us dating, Ryu replied. When Hiashi said, that's a real stupid reason. What? Called Ryu in an honest attempt to assist, he stated, it's a stupid reason. I don't think Lola cares about neither of the reasons you mentioned, so you shouldn't either. Hiashi, let's say you and River positions were switched, would you still want to date her? Ryu responded. That I can't say, but I do know River somewhat felt the same way as you. None of the Hyuga elders, especially my father, liked me dating her, so they tried to sabotage our relationship by telling her she either not see me or they make my life a living hell. She decided to not see me, but I found out and told her I rather have a life of living hell with her than be without her, and you know what? She agreed. I believe that is how you and Lola are, Hiashi continued. Ryu said nothing. That is also how I see Hinata and her husband Naruto though. Yes, now he is a cage and we all know of his family background making him royalty, but before he was not seen like that. I'm sure my daughter would have chosen to be with that brat anyways, even if he never became a cage and was poor loser, Hiashi said to Ryu. Ryu asked, you now see Hinata-san as a daughter, after becoming somewhat enraged at Hiashi for how he had treated Hinata. Yes, I know I treated her wrong, but Lola has made rethink my ways and I feel like I need to apologize and tell her how much I love before I never get the chance, Hiashi acknowledges. Scoffed Ryu, folded his arms. Hey, I said I going to apologize to her, Hiashi yelled. Took you long enough. She is a really strong girl and she even surpassed me in strength, Ryu replied. Really? Hiashi said, yes. Before we trained it was hard to get her out of her shy shell, but I did it and then she became this strong ray of sunlight. I was surprised that she was your daughter, and when I heard how you treated her I wanted to beat your face in. She is an amazing young woman and I am glad I met her. I taught her all I knew then. Lola taught her a lot also. She is now strong as 3 cages, Ryu said with a grin, something he rarely does. Glancing at Ryu, Hiashi wondered if he was genuinely referring to his daughter Hinata, the same timid one. However, she no longer appeared to be so bashful. He could tell after just one look at her conducting the council meeting. Ryu, I must thank you for taking care of my daughter then, Hiashi said with a simple smile. Ryu gave a headshake. She really took care of me. If I would have never met her I would have never had the life I have now, but I must say I wonder why you're not shocked that Lola's still alive. She did after all fake her death, Ryu responded. That is because I figure that she never really would commit suicide. Uzumakis have this gene that makes them never give up, so I wasn't really that shocked. Plus I wasn't really thrilled to see the little brat who used to get me in trouble with River and Kushina all the time while Minato, Hisashi, and you watch as I helpless get yelled and beat by my wife and best friend's girlfriend, said Hiashi. Ryu chuckled. He recalls the good old days when Hiashi would say something that annoyed Lola, and she would yell at him and they would fight until she either broke down in tears or decided to tell River and Kushina, which would put Hiashi in hot water. Ryu, Hisashi, and Minato would act as though they were unaware when Hiashi screamed for assistance. They then checked to see if he was alright, which is typically not the case. Even though he considered Lola to be a sister, Hiashi would adore it when she had to return home from her visit, stating, the stupid brat is leaving. Yay, I miss the good old days when we used to hang out with no worries before I got kicked out and you became a dick, Ryu said with a grin. Hey, I'm still here, Ryu, Hiashi reported. Yay, but I still can't forgive you so easily even if you were trying to change, you prick. Now let's go check on Lola. I sure she probably opened a couple of those bottles of sake since she is mad, Ryu replied. Naruto and the Whirlpool Ninja sat in his parents' home. He expected to feel a little depressed, but he was unable to do so. He wasn't depressed in the house because he was so accustomed to Lola calling his parents. Kyo looked to Naruto for clarification. Naruto, I wanted to talk to you about the Danzo clone. I'm sure you knew also that it was a blood clone, Kyo said. Since Kyo was intelligent and could figure things like this out in a matter of seconds, Naruto wasn't shocked that Kyo had discovered that Danzo was a blood clone. Aside from Kyuubi and Hinata, the other ninja were lost. Emi shirked and her eyes widened. Wait, the guy we came here to kill was just a blood clone. Yes, he was just a blood clone. I could tell the moment he walked in that he was not the real Danzo, Naruto replied. Then what fuck are we doing still helping Konoha, replied Emi. Clam down Emi, the Azuchage is not dumb, he obviously has a good reason for this, told Toshiro. Thank you Toshiro, I do. Even Konoha doesn't know that Danzo used a blood clone, started Naruto. Are you sure about that Azuchage? Koji inquired, his expression dreadfully doubtful. Naruto reassured him, positive, I can tell they were not lying. Well, that means Danzo is still somewhere in this village, right? Kade responded. Kyuubi replied, no, he was long gone before he even used the blood clone. So where do you suppose he gone and what is he up to? Shinta inquired. Naruto remarked, Hinata is working on that. Yes, I gotten a few members from Watchers to spy at the battlefield of the war Konoha is in now. I want to see if Danzo has something to do with that and we mapped out areas where we got clues to where he might be, said Hinata. But he must have knew we were coming and we told Konoha to not alert him of our presence. How did he find out, or did they tell him, asks Jin. As I said before, I don't believe they told him. Danzo is a sneaky old bat, so he could have easily saw something was up and decide to get out earlier. He is known to keep an ear on everything, plus I'm sure he has some sort of plan up his sleeve, said Naruto. What if his plan is for us to leave Uzu? He may want to attack the village while we are not there, said Mazurka. That very well may be true, but 90% of our army is still back home. They don't need us to take out Danzo, plus we won't be staying here long, Naruto replied. Along with what Naruto said, Danzo used a blood clone. Blood clones use up half of person charka and energy. If he attacking right now, that would be stupid. He would have to wait a day or two, get his energy back up, and I will have information from my watchers if he tries that. We will be alert and ready to get back to village to help out as soon as possible, stated Hinata. Remember that no small fries will defeat seekers, Kyuubi chuckled. Hinata responds, neither will the watchers be taking out either. Both the watchers and the seekers in the room experienced an electric moment. It was well known that both groups were fierce competitors who always managed to turn anything into a contest. Naruto knew that if he didn't intervene, they would be attempting to kill each other. Yay! All the ninjas in Whirlpool will not be taking lightly, Naruto informed them, attempting to avoid retaliating against the fox or his wife. Nice save, Azuchage, but that is just lame. They both know you're just saving your ass, Toshiro said softly in Naruto's ear. Knock. Knock. A knock on the door was heard despite not knowing who it was. Naruto got up and went to the door. He simply opened the door without peering through the peephole. He was truly taken aback. Ryu, Hiashi, and an inebriated Lola were clinging to each other, swinging back and forth. Naruto debated whether to let them in or close the door and pretend nothing had happened in the hopes that he wouldn't regret it. He selected the second option. He said, "What are you doing here? Come in." But as he stepped in, he glared at Hiashi. It was difficult because they nearly stumbled multiple times as Naruto guided them back to the living room where the other ninja were. When Naruto returned with an inebriated Lola, Ryu, and Hiashi, Hinata looked up. She was genuinely afraid of confronting her father and wondering why they had come here. The foolish expression on her father's inebriated face, however, made her want to laugh. She never witnessed him get intoxicated. She had never seen him like this before. Lola slurred, "Hina Schwan, Papa Hiashi has something to tell you." Hinata glanced at Hiashi and then Lola. Ryu laughed aloud as Hiashi simply nodded and attempted to wave her over before tripping and falling off the couch. After Hiashi saw this, Naruto, who had been glaring at her, was unable to continue. He burst out laughing. Hiashi, who was intoxicated, didn't find it amusing and attempted to stand up, but he fell again and tried multiple times before giving up. The three inebriated fools put on a hilarious show that made Kyuubi and the others laugh uncontrollably. Hiashi pleaded from the ground, "Will somebody help me up please," as the sake that Ryu and Lola had been drinking was starting to get to him. Hiashi-kun, you're a meanie pea once," complained Lola, showing him her 5-year-old tongue. "Why?" A very hurt Hiashi pouted. Ryu said to Hiashi, "You took away her sock." Hiashi slurred, "Fwa cuss she drunk," his tongue feeling incredibly thick. With a schoolgirl giggle, Lola stumbled, "I hick I'm not drunk, whaa was talkin'," and waved her hand at Hiashi. Shaking his head, Naruto wondered how they got to his house while so inebriated. Naruto inquired, "How did you guys get here?" "Still on the ground," Hiashi said. "Hick Lola said you might be here. Hick, can I talk to Hina?" "Why do you want to talk to me?" Hinata asked her father with a glare. Hiashi said, "Hick cuz ilwuvuuuuu," from the ground. Hinata turned back to face her father, who had never said that before. Even though she didn't believe him yet, she sighed and went to help him up because she wanted to hear what he had to say. She nearly dropped him because he smelled like alcohol, but he caught her and gave her a tight hug. As his shoulders started to shake and he started to cry, he said, "I really love you, Hinata, you look so much like your mother, I love your mouther." When Lola said, "Hee pansy, Hiashi is a cry-babui," she laughed. Hiashi yelled, "Shwut Lola," with hardly a word left in his mouth. Lola starts to say something, but she completely forgets what she was going to say. Her father's breath made Hinata grimace, and she carried him upstairs to one of the empty rooms. After that, everyone started to call it a night. Naruto made the decision to take Ryu and his aunt to some vacant beds, but when he turned around, they were both gone. After everyone started saying good night, he figured they must have tried to walk home and decided to catch up with them before they started any needless trouble. Normally calm, Ryu became a talking, laughing fool. The few times his aunt was able to get him intoxicated, Lola, however, simply got into more trouble and started laughing more. He entered the Konoha night and walked out the door. He was reminded of his early years spent in Konoha by the lone moon and the dark sky full of stars. He sighed and started to leave to meet Ryu and his aunt. He oofed as he bumped into someone just as he was about to turn a corner. "Watch it, Dobi," he said, starting to rise from the floor. "The only person in Konoha that I know who says, Dobi, is Naruto." "Watch it, Dobi," he said, starting to rise from the floor. "There's only one person in Konoha that I know that says that," Naruto thought. "Sasuke Teme?" Naruto inquired, uncertain if he was correct. "Huh, Naruto," responded the man with the raven hair. When Naruto last saw Sasuke 5 years ago, he looked completely different. His hair had grown longer because of its length. A portion of it protruded from the sides of the headband that was fastened around his head. He appeared to be a man because his face was thinner. His pecs appeared to be popping out of his Jonin jacket and black sweatshirt, demonstrating how toned he was. He was dressed in ninja sandals and ordinary Jonin pants. Naruto smirked and said, "So do you go around calling every visiting Kage Dobi, Sasuke?" Sasuke was unable to speak. He was aware of Naruto's presence after completing her mission. Sakura informed him that Naruto had arrived. Additionally, she informed him that Naruto was the Whirlpool Cage. She told him she could tell him this much, but not all the specifics. Now that her mission was over, however, he was taken aback to see Naruto standing in front of him in person. He had a lot he wanted to say, like, "Sorry," and "How have you been?" But instead he heard himself say. He smirked as he asked, "And does the visiting Cage always go bumping into someone and calling them a teme?" With his hand beneath his chin, Naruto answered, "Don't know. It depends on who the person is," his arrogant smile never faltering. With his typical haughtiness, Sasuke remarked, "I suppose that means raven-haired men who look awfully handsome." "Are we still arrogant?" inquired Naruto. Sasuke felt himself grinning, but he shook his head. It had been a long time since he had truly smiled. "Azukage, would you like a drink?" Sasuke inquired. Naruto uttered, "I was thinking the same thing, Sasuke." After that, the two ordered a few drinks at a nearby tavern. "So how have you been?" Naruto inquired. "I am supposed to be asking you that," Sasuke told him. Naruto informed Sasuke, "Well, if you want to know, I've been great." "Really?" Sasuke inquired, unsure if Naruto was being honest with him. "I know your dream was to become Hokage, and that day I ruined it for you. I'm sorry. I really am," Sasuke replied. Naruto grinned after taking the drink that was placed in front of him and downing it. "Yes, my dream was to become Hokage, but I think my real dream was to find love and to have a family and for people to recognize me and for me to be a Cage, and you know what I got that, Sasuke, so I don't think you ruined my dreams, you just put a dent in them," Naruto told the man with raven hair. Alcohol's harsh acid burned Sasuke's throat as he swallowed his drink. "Your dream was to have a family," Sasuke whispered. "Yes, I never had a family, so I always wanted one. That is why I always seek to bring you back, because at the time you were my only family. My brother," stated Naruto. Sasuke said, "I see," as he gazed at the antique painting in the former bar. "Hinata is the main key to my happiness now. Her and the village people, the council, the daimyo, and the ninja are what keep me going strong," Naruto proudly said. "Do you blame me for not this village not being what you have today?" Sasuke responded. "I did blame you at the time. All I could think of was that if I never bothered to bring you back from the darkness, that I would have never been kicked out from Konoha," said Naruto. After glancing down, Sasuke reached for and drank another drink. "But I don't blame you anymore because I am over it, and I know that no matter how many times I got put in that position I would do it again," Naruto replied. When Sasuke said, "Why, you lost everything?" "No, I didn't lose everything, plus I gain a whole lot more. I do miss everyone here, but Sasuke, you must understand, a man can never go back on his word, and I promised to save you. I promised to Sakura, I promised to me that I would save you. Not only that, but I would have felt way worse with the title Hokage if I hadn't saved you. It would eat at me for rest of my life, assured Naruto. I don't know if I could have done the same for you, Sasuke said candidly. Naruto laughed. Of course not, Sasuke. Only an Uzumaki could pull off such a thing as I did. Sasuke mumbled. Dobi, while laughing and shaking his head. So I heard you and Sakura have gotten together, Naruto remarked. Sasuke replied, yeah, we're taking it slow right now. I don't know how you do it. After chuckling, Naruto said, wait till you get married. Married, Sasuke said, trembling, haha, it's not that bad, Sasuke. I was just joking. It is actually the most wonderful thing in the world, to know that the woman you're with will always been there for you and doesn't leave you for eating 1,000 times a day or yell at you for your faults. Instead they embrace them, Naruto exclaimed. Man, you sound like a wise old man right now, you know that right, Sasuke chuckled. Hey, you will be sounding the same way, Teme, once you tie the knot, trust me, Naruto replied. Sasuke asked gravely, how do you know when you're ready to tie the knot? It's different with everyone, but you will know when it's the right time, Naruto admitted. Sasuke moans, everyone says that, so come on, Dobi. Okay, if you really want to know, it's when you start to act ways you never acted around her, when you let her in, letting her know every aspect of your life, your fears and down points, when you trust her with your life, and when you think about her 24/7 of the day, when you hate departing with her even if you have nothing to say, said Naruto. So that is love, Sasuke inquired. Not even half of it, but it's a pretty good start, Naruto said. Sasuke said, well, thanks for the advice, sincerely appreciating the counsel. With a nod, Naruto got up from his stool and placed cash on the bar top. He turned to Sasuke, stretching his arms, and said, see ya. He then turned around and left. Naruto, yelled Sasuke. Yay, said Naruto. Sasuke said, what about now? What am I to you now? Naruto responded, you're still my brother, Sasuke, you will always be, and left a smiling Sasuke in the middle of the night, feeling as though a burden had been lifted. In a similar vein, Naruto felt as though he had finally had a chance to speak with Sasuke and reassure him that everything was fine. Returning to the Namikaze estate wearily, Naruto made his way back to his parents' house and up the stairs to the room where he and Hinata would spend the night. She was waiting for him in the bed. When he walked in, he crawled into bed with her after stripping to his boxers. Where did you go, sweetheart? His beautiful wife inquired. I went to go make sure Ryu and Lola wasn't causing any ruckus, and then I ran into Sasuke, stated Naruto. She inquired, Sasuke, how did that go? Understanding that he was sensitive to the subject. We went to a bar and had a few drinks and just had a good talk. You know, the regular guy stuff. And he apologized to me and I told him it was okay. You know, nothing much, he said with a grin. Did you cry? Hinata asked in jest, looking at his wife as if she were insane. Naruto questioned, Hinata-chan, what kind of man cries? Mr. Uzumaki, I remember seeing you cry quite a few times, she said, laughing and kissing his cheek. As he tickled his wife, he joked, shush, keep your voice down. If someone hears what you said, it will ruin my representative, Hinata-chan. Hinata laughed, ha ha ha, stop, ha ha ha, okay, she said. Good, now tell me, how do you feel being back here? Seeing Hiashi and all, and what did he have to say to you, said Naruto. I can't say I miss much besides my friends. I'm not really sad that I left, and as far as seeing Hiashi, it hurts a little bit every time I see him. As far as what he said to me, he didn't say anything. When I brought him upstairs, he passed out on the bed and I left him there, but I can't help to wonder if he meant what he said when he told me he loved me even though he was drunk. It really means a lot, said Hinata. Maybe he did really mean it, Hinata. I think you should talk to your father so you can see how he really feels and set your mind at ease. I will be there by your side, Naruto said to his spouse. I know, Naruto, you're always there for me, by my side when I need it most, she said, giving him a gentle peck on the cheek. And you're always there for me, Hinata-chan, Naruto remarked. Hinata inquired, so, how are you feeling now that you are back? She was aware that her husband had been anxious before. At first I admit I was scared, nervous, and excited all at once, but like you said, now that I am here and have talked to almost everyone, I feel so much better and I don't feel scared or nervous at all. I'm still excited though. Once we help end this war, we can see Neji and the others before we head back home, Naruto cheerfully stated to his spouse. I agree with you, Naruto, though I am worried about Danzo, Madara, and KO, she stated to him. Naruto asked in confusion, Hinata-chan, may I ask who is KO? He was unaware of any KO. Chuckling, oh, I forgot, me and the Watchers were getting tired of saying Kabuto Orochimaru, so we made up a codename called KO, which stands for Kabuto Orochimaru, I see, that makes perfect sense, he replied. But you know Hinata-chan, there's no need to worry about those fools because I'm sure soon we will find out what they're up to and I will take out those bastards, he reassured her. As she told her husband, I know but not knowing what they're up to just irks me, ya know. He grinned and joked, nope, I don't understand ya one bit, as his wife gazed at him. She sat up and picked up a pillow. Naruto was aware of what was about to happen, but it was too late to prevent his wife from using the pillow to launch an attack. Hinata beat her husband with the pillow while grinning. Naruto said, nay, Hinata-chan, don't think you're the only one who is a master at pillow fights, as he grabbed his own pillow and began pillow fighting with his wife. Playing the damsel in distress, Hinata retaliated against Naruto by laughing and saying, Naruto-kun, no fair, you are stronger than me, I am just a poor defenseless woman with a pillow. He smirked and said, oh, before hastily generating a shadow clone. Hinata was perplexed by this until she witnessed Naruto and the shadow clone trade places and Naruto start assisting Hinata in her attack on him. Shortly after, the shadow clone pooped, and they collapsed back on the bed, both of them laughing. I do believe I saved you from a horrible monster, miss, he said, his smile sly. I thought you did, sir, she concurred. May I know the name of this beautiful princess that I have just saved, he said. She said, the name's Hinata Uzumaki, to him. Weird because my name is Naruto Uzumaki. Say you look a lot like my wife, he said. Grinning, Hinata climbed atop Naruto. And you look a lot like my hot husband, she exclaimed in amazement. Well, miss, I think my wife might get mad with you and me in this type of position, he said to her. I think my husband might get mad too, but you know, how about we let this be our little secret, she replied. With a broad smile, Naruto said, yeah, know what, miss, I was thinking the same thing. She gave Naruto a kiss while laughing. She said to him, how about I show you what I like to do to Mr. Uzumaki? He said, I'd like that, and gave her a kiss in return. The following morning, the first people in the kitchen that morning were Ryu, Hiashi, and Lola. They came into the kitchen for a glass of water after they had been throwing up in the restrooms non-stop. Ryu stood next to the refrigerator with his eyes closed. Lola stood by the sink, and Hiashi sat at the kitchen table with his head resting on the table. Lola whimpered, damn, my head hurts like hell. With his head barely off the table, Hiashi asked aloud, yay, just what did we do last night? Who knows, Ryu uttered while keeping his eyes shut. The three of them silently pondered, and the memories suddenly returned to them. Rewind to the trio's last night before they arrived at the Namikaze estate. Lola was sitting and drinking directly from the bottle when Hiashi and Ryu descended the stairs. She appeared a little tipsy but not inebriated. There were numerous unopened sake bottles on the counters surrounding her. Are you Daimyo? You're not going to drink all that? Hiashi inquired. She urged the inebriated woman, forgetting that she was upset with the two. Hiashi, Ryu, sit down, have a drink. I don't drink, Hiashi declared. Daimyo, Ryu went on, and I think I will pass. For a while, the two men were concerned as Lola started to cry loud, choked sobs. Why won't you guys drink with me? Do you not like me? I thought we were friends. I just wanted it to be like old times, she cried. Ryu and Hiashi exchanged glances. Both of them questioned why no one was observing her and where her guards were. They also pondered their course of action in light of the current circumstances. That is not true, Daimyo. We just think it's better not to drink, Ryu replied. She said to the two, you would drink with me if you were my true friends. They let out a sigh. Women are skilled at ensnaring men. Looking at Ryu to see if he would agree, Hiashi muttered, okay, we will have just a few sips, and he nodded. Great, she exclaimed, feeling instantly happier. They started to perspire. They sensed that this was a poor decision. Lola placed 2 more cups of sake on the counter and started filling them with the clear, rich liquid. Drink up, she instructed them. Lola refilled their cups as they both picked them up and drank the warm liquid. They concluded that it would probably be best to stop drinking after the 3rd time. Hiashi protested, I think this is enough, Daimyo. She shook her head no and pouted, sticking out her bottom lip. Ryu muttered, I think we shouldn't drink anymore either. She presented them with 3 bottles of sake. After we each drink a whole bottle, please, she inquired. Hiashi grabbed the bottle and drank it all at once. Getting intoxicated, Ryu followed suit, and the results were the same like her friends. Lola drank her bottle and giggled loudly. Ya, knows Daimyo, I don't know whys, we have to call, ya, Daimyo, Ryu asked, gesturing with his wrist. Don'ts, calls, me, Lola, this woman laughed. Okay, Lola-chan, Hiashi muttered, way, how about we drink some more, since it shows how good of FF friends we are, Ryu responded. Sake bottles after hours. I didn't feel like typing them that way, so I toned down the drunken talk a little because it can be annoying to read and write just to remind you, their supper smashed. Hiashi jumped up and down and screamed, "Nay, nay, nay, Lola," to get her attention. Lola turned an empty sake bottle upside down and shook it to see if anything was inside, but nothing came out. "Nani, Hiashi-kun," she said. He was trying to balance a sake cup on his nose, but the alcohol was making it difficult. "I was thinking. Hick, what's if we were ninja, hick, ya know, it would be so cool," he said. Either Ryu laughed and Lola giggled, or Lola and Ryu began to laugh. When Hiashi said, "Hick, why, ya laughing, cuz hick, we are ninja already Hiashi," Ryu chuckled. "Oh, hick, that's why you were laughing, hick, I was laughing because Hiashi-kun can't balance the cup," laughed Lola. "Wait, if we are ninja, hick, then why don't we wear all black garbs with the little black masks and tiny black ninja swords," Hiashi said. Ryu remarked, Hick, I'm not sure, they are intoxicated, but I am too exhausted to write about it. I think it's a ninja stereotype. Hey, what ninja moves do we know, Ryu, asked Lola. I don't remember, Ryu clarified. Maybe if we did a few ninja-like things we will remember how to be ninjas, Hiashi responded. Like what? Ryu inquired. He was unsure. Don't they do sneaky stuff? Lola expressed. Hiashi declared. Oh, I know we can see who can steal the most milk from cows. Lola cooed. Woo, that's so ninja, Ryu said, but where can we find a cow? I know, let's go, Hiashi exclaimed as he jumped out of his chair and started to run. Wait up, shouted Ryu, and Lola snatched up some sake bottles and ran after him. Once they reached the Hyuga gates, Lola's eyes and ears squad and a few Hyuga clan guards stopped them. Hiashi complained, Tish, move, we want to be ninjas, because he didn't like the treatment he was receiving. I'm somebody important, ya know. Ryu shook his head, threatening a drunken Lola. I know Hiashi-sama and Daimyo of Whirlpool, but we can't let you leave the grounds like this, the Hyuga guard stammered. They whimpered, and Hiashi drew Ryu and Lola away to the side, where they were huddled in a circle, or what they believed to be a circle, but was actually more of a triangle. I got a plan, Hiashi told them. What is it? Lola inquired. They don't seem like a smart bunch, so I say we pretend like we are going to go back to the house, then we scream really loud, said Hiashi. That's perfect, and then we can push past the ones who get off track or shove sake down their throats, Ryu said. Lola and Hiashi tried to slap 5 Ryu, but both of them missed. Nice, they said. Let's do it, Hiashi shouted. Okay, break time. On the count of 3, they all started to make their way to the manor and started yelling loudly, fearing they had been injured. The guards hurried away from the gates and began running in their direction. Hiashi, Ryu, and Lola began to flee the compound as fast as they could. But Lola's eyes and ear squad intervened to stop them. Hiashi grumbled, rat's ass, we almost had them. Lola said, nay, you guys have to listen to me right, to her eyes and ears squad. Unfortunately, the squad nodded their heads in agreement. Den, drink some sake with us, that's an order. Well, I think, instructed Lola. The ninjas sighed and started drinking until they were completely inebriated. They lay close to the gates with the inebriated guards and eyes and ears squad. Nay, I think we had something important to do, Ryu said. Yeah, smiled Lola, wait, it was about cows. I know, how about we see who's a good ninja by seeing who can steal the most cow milk, said Hiashi. Lola exclaimed, brilliant idea, Hiashi-kun, and they slowly stood up and left the Hyuga gates without the inebriated guards objecting. Hiashi asked, let's see, where do we find cows? Lola yelled, here little cow, come out, wherever you are, into the darkness. Hiashi said, hey, aren't you supposed to meow? Ryu countered, no, I think it's rough. Yay, then what goes moo, Lola clarified. That's a cat, silly, Hiashi said with a laugh. Oh, that makes sense, Lola concurred. Ryu said to a stranger, hey, excuse me, sir, do you know where the cows live? What are you talking about? Wait, do you mean Nara's cow stable? It's right down there, and then you see lots of grass, can't miss it, replied the outsider. Ryu called out, thank you, as he, Lola, and Hiashi ran to the Nara stable. When they arrived at the stable, Lola questioned, what's this wooden fence doing here? Maybe you're supposed to crawl under it like ninjas, Ryu replied. Hiashi nodded and attempted to squeeze through the wooden fence's gaps. First, he got stuck a quarter of the way through. It was a humorous circumstance. I'm stuck, Hiashi complained. Lola moaned, aw man, "Let's pull him out, Ryu," and they began tugging at Hiashi's feet. They pulled relentlessly until they managed to free him, causing him to fall backward onto their asses. Lola jumped over the fence and exclaimed, "Yay, we got ya free. Now let's visit the cows." Hiashi and Ryu fell onto the grass after doing the same. "Wow, there's so many cats here, look at all of them mooing," Lola commented. Lola-chan, those are mooing cows, they're really rare," said Ryu. While Ryu and Lola ran toward one cow, Hiashi said, "Cool, let's milk them," as he ran toward another. In an attempt to determine where to milk the cow, Hiashi looked everywhere. A perplexed Hiashi said, "Hey guys, do you know how to milk the rare mooing cow?" "I think we pull those strings hanging down from their stomach," Ryu thought. A tiny bit of milk came out when Hiashi pulled on the udders. "I'm milking it," Hiashi boasted. "Me too," said Ryu and Lola. After that, they started a competition to see who could steal the most milk. They quickly discovered, however, that it was difficult to catch all of the milk in your hands. "How do ninjas do this stuff? Catching milk in your hand is hard, it keeps falling out, it won't stay put even if I yell at it," grumbled Lola. Ryu remarked, "I know, it's so hard." When they turned to see what Hiashi was doing, they saw him carrying a cow out of the stable. The cow let out a loud moo. Hiashi started to stifle it because he didn't want anyone to wake up. Following Hiashi, Lola and Ryu ceased milking their cows. "Nay Hiashi, you got a lot of milk, that means you're a good ninja," said Ryu. Up until he reached the section where they were supposed to jump over the stable, Hiashi grinned proudly. Hiashi questioned, "How are we supposed to get him across?" "Okay, Ryu and I will go across first and then you will hand him to us," Lola replied. Ryu and Hiashi hopped over the fence and waited for Hiashi to toss the cow over. After Hiashi nodded, the cry was, "Nay, I got to potty," and Ryu held his crotch. Lola gestured toward a flower shop in the distance and said, "How about you potty at that restroom over there?" "That's a long way," and he grumbled. She said, "I'll go with you." They heard a plop as they started to head for the flower shop. Completely oblivious to Hiashi's act of hurling the cow over the fence, they failed to catch Hiashi when he threw the cow. Fortunately, the cow landed without incident. They turned around and waited for Hiashi. "Hey, I think we should let the cows free. I think they don't like it there," Hiashi said, expressing sympathy for the uncommon mooing cows. "Me too," Ryu and Lola concurred. Hiashi ran to the fence door, believing it was only for cows, and opened it, yelling for the cows to come. This yell caused the cows to start running out of the stable, but it also roused the Naris, who emerged as the three of them ran toward the flower shop. The cows dispersed all around. Ryu said, "Okay, where do I pee?" Lola pointed to a flower garden in front of the store and said, "Right there." Even though he was intoxicated, Hiashi had the common sense to turn around while Ryu went about his business, urinating all over the lovely flower garden. But Lola's eyes were wide as she watched him. He turned around after zipping up his pants and saw a slobbering, inebriated Lola staring at him as if he were a treat. Slurring, "I want to kiss you," Lola said. "Then kiss me," he shrugged and said. Before sloppily making out with her crush, Lola squealed and drew him into her arms. Turning to face the two, Hiashi burst out laughing, a little embarrassed, but more shocked than anything. They pulled apart. "Nye love Dave birds. Let's get more sake and do more ninja things," Hiashi said. After nodding, they hurried back to the Hyuga Manor, creating a commotion of all kinds. They decided to do more ninja activities after finishing 6 more bottles of sake, which resulted in them writing arbitrary phrases like, "I was not here," and "Hiashi is king of the jungle," on walls. Before Hiashi finally decided he wanted to see Hinata, they went to the park and jumped out of swings, believing they were flying. Lola held 2 bottles of sake, one in each hand. As they sat on a park bench, Hiashi made the decision to stop his friend from getting too inebriated. Hiashi said, "Give me that bottle, Lola-chan, you're intoxicated." "Am not," she exclaimed. They fought over the sake bottle until it broke out of her hands. "Or 2 now, give it here," they said. She glared at Hiashi and started to complain. Hiashi said, "Swore he didn't mean to. Nay, can we visit Hina?" "Yay, they might be at Nei-chan and Minato Face's old place," Lola replied. They stood up and started in several directions while clinging to one another. When they eventually arrived at their destination, Ryu knocked on the door. Flashback end. The 3 of them recalled their humiliating behavior from the previous day. Hiashi also recalls that he passed out just as he was about to apologize to his daughter. Hiashi and Hinata went upstairs, and Lola and Ryu recall other things. Lola and Ryu's flashback. They all started to call it a night. Lola was beginning to feel sleepy, so she decided it would be best to go to bed now. Ryu complied with her request to take her to bed as he tucked her into the bed like a princess. She glanced at the attractive shinobi. Hic SW leap wit me hic Ryu-kun, Lola pleaded as she patted the bed. Sure princess, he said as he undressed until he was in his boxers and joined her in bed. Flashback end, as they recalled the rest of that night, which was filled with intense passion, kissing, and cries of unadulterated pleasure, Lola and Ryu flushed. So, breakfast, Ryu coughed, checking the refrigerator for food, but he forgot that it had been empty for years because the house had been vacant. Unbelieving that she had sex with Ryu, Lola glanced at him and then averted her gaze. She would have collapsed to the floor from sheer delight if she hadn't put a hand on the counter. Together with Hinata, Naruto said, "So you drunken idiots are up. God, I am hungry," as they went into the kitchen. Kyuubi asked, "What's for breakfast?" as he and the others soon entered. Hiashi groaned loudly because he was hungry. He had a terrible hangover, and they were being too loud. He put his head down on the table and muttered, "Why don't you have any food in here at all? I'm hungry, you know." Naruto gave Hiashi a fierce look, saying, "How dare you come to my place and complain about not having anything to eat?" Lola said, "I know, I'm hungry, you baka," to her nephew. "Well, guess what? You guys were at a place where you would have gotten served breakfast in the morning, but you decided to come here, so don't complain," Naruto yelled. Naruto's loud voice made the three of them wince. With his head hurting, Ryu complained, "Azukage-sama, this is all I ask of you, but please keep your voice down." Naruto said, "Oh sorry," in apology. He could respect Ryu, but he didn't like Hiashi, and in situations like this, he couldn't give a damn about Lola. "How about we go out and getting something to eat, just you and me, Ryu-kun," replied Lola. Everyone assumed she was no longer upset with him. He stammered, Daimyo, if that's what you want," in response. "This is fantastic," Ryu thought to himself, "but I can't even speak to her." "Of course you can't, you big fool. Having sex with the daimyo is illegal." Even if she was partially responsible, however, she was still intoxicated, so it could be considered a crime. No, it wasn't a good crime. "Oh, what am I thinking?" Ryu asked himself, struggling with internal conflict. The others just gave Ryu strange looks. They all knew him well enough to know that even when the daimyo threw herself on the fool, he never stammered because of his cool, collected manner. He would never perspire. The distance between Ryu and Lola was reduced. She put her head on his shoulder and gave him a firm embrace. "Ryu, I love you whether you believe it or not, so I forbid you from calling me daimyo. You can call me Lola or any other nickname, but I won't allow you to call me daimyo." She then whispered for his ears only, despite the fact that two foxes in the room could hear her. "And Ryu, about last night, are we dating now?" she asked. "I'd like to date you, Lola, but," in that moment, Lola interrupted him because she didn't want to hear it. "I heard what you told Kakashi and I really don't care, Ryu. I would give up being daimyo for you. Please don't say you don't want to date me because of something so small. You should pay attention to everything I say." Lady with an unusual smirk on his face, he whispered, "I was going to say I want to date you, but don't think it's only because we had sex." He grinned and gave her a kiss as Lola raised her head from his shoulder to gaze at him. On the other hand, Naruto was losing his mind and started choking. At this point, he wished he didn't have such good hearing because he didn't want to hear about any sexual activity between his aunt and Ryu. However, no one seemed to notice his choking because the men shook their heads and the women cooed at the kissing couple. Fortunately, he was able to prevent himself from choking. He spat, gross, as soon as they stopped kissing. "Shut up, Naruto," Lola instructed him. "So about break feet?" a ravenous Kyuubi asked. Toshiro proposed, "How about we all go out to eat?" "Great, I'm starving and the council meeting starts in a few hours," said Naruto. Hiashi decided he had better end this now and said, Hinata, can we talk first?" Hinata gave her father a confused look but nodded her head once more. After Hinata informed her husband, "We will meet up with you," everyone left the room to allow Hinata and Hiashi to speak. Hinata took a seat at the table where her father was seated, who was now doing his best to sit upright. "Hangovers are not for me," he said, attempting to start a casual conversation. There was awkward silence between them as Hinata remained silent. Hiashi began, "Hinata, I just want to start by saying sorry." "Why? Why now?" As her feelings began to overwhelm her, she asked her father, "Why do you say sorry now?" "I know I should have been nicer sooner and haven't been a good father, but I just want to say sorry. Whether you accept it or not is completely up to you," Hiashi stated. "I'll try, but I'm not sure what I can do to make it up to you," Hiashi admitted, embarrassed that he was being honest with her. "I don't want to be a jerk anymore and I want to be invited to future events if you let me, like your kids' birthday parties and things like that." When Hinata realized her father was telling the truth, she started to cry. She didn't whimper or make any noise. Instead, The tears fell down her cheeks as though someone had drawn water strands across them. Hiashi, worried that he had offended his daughter, said, "Hinata, I'm sorry, did I say something wrong?" With tears still streaming down her cheeks, she shook her head and said, "I just waited forever to hear you say that, father." Despite her startled expression, Hiashi stood up and embraced her, saying, "Even if you don't like me or if you're married to a perverted man, you are still my daughter." "Are you calling Naruto perverted?" Hinata asked, pulling her head back from her father's chest. Hiashi pouted, "What else should I call him? He stole my daughter." Hinata simply laughed, not even bothering to remind her father of the truth, and was happy that he expressed his feelings to her. She was also happy that she had traveled to Konoha. "So, will you soon have grandchildren?" Hiashi inquired. "Everyone has been asking that, but me and Naruto haven't really talked about it yet," Hinata replied. When Hiashi said, "Kids are a wonderful thing. They most likely are, but I might think about having a child after we get through helping out Konoha," Hinata said. I didn't like her response. "That could be years, wars last years sometimes," Hiashi noted. Hinata chuckled. "Not when you have the Whirlpool Ninjas. As soon as we get out there we will have finished it." "I never recall you being arrogant, Hinata. You either learned that from Naruto or Lola, both of whom are negative influences," Hiashi muttered. "If I remember correctly, father, you were the one drunk last night," said Hinata. Hiashi groaned, finally realizing what he had done was terrible. "That's because Lola forced me and, oh god, we did some dumb things," he said. Hinata arched an inquisitive eyebrow. "Like what? Tell me." When Hiashi said, "This is not for you to know. I thought we're bonding," Hinata pouted, looking as though she was about to cry, absorbing much of Naruto's sly demeanor. In an attempt to keep his daughter from detesting him, he said, "Okay, I'll tell you. Well, before coming here, Lola, Ryu, and I may have gone to the Nara's farm and let the cows out. After that, I believe Ryu urinated all over Yamanaka's flower shop flower garden, and we wrote things on the walls at the Hyuga Manor. We made all of the Hyuga guards and Lola's guards drink until they passed out or were too lazy to move, finally recalling every little detail of what they had done." Hiashi screamed. "We also called all the main branch members pussies in their ears in the middle of the night." Hinata simply looked at her father for the longest time before laughing uncontrollably and shaking her head back and forth. She said, "Ha ha ha, you are so dead, Dad," to Hiashi. He yelled, "Don't you think I know that?" without elaborating on why she found this amusing. Hinata laughed and said, "I think you guys should hang out more often," laughing. Hiashi sneered, "No way, something bad always happens when I'm with Lola." Hinata jokingly remarked, "It seemed to me that you enjoyed yourself." "I did not. Now I will have to explain why all the Hyuga guards are passed out and why I woke up the Hyuga elders by screaming insults in their ears." Hiashi was frantic. Hinata shrugged, knowing that this would be a humorous situation to watch her father work his way out of, and that it wasn't her problem. "What about the Nara and Yamanaka clans? They're going to be pissed also," replied Hinata. Don't remind me," Hiashi sneered. "I'm surprised you didn't do anything to the Akamichi clan, with the three being so closely related," Hinata thought. Hiashi's eyes widened as a recollection returned to him. Flashback. "Let's eat at that restaurant before we head to the park," Hiashi proposed. Ryu and Lola yelled, "Redding, Akimi Kai," Lola said. Ryu asked, "Forgetting about the Akamichi clan, who are they?" "Who cares, go in," Hiashi muttered. The door was locked when they pushed it. "It is locked," Lola stated. When Hiashi returned with a brick, he threw it at the glass, and they stole food, which they then gave to the midnight creatures because none of them felt like eating. Flashback end. Hiashi moaned. He was in a lot of trouble and didn't enjoy this at all. "Wailing, stupid Lola," he said. Hinata laughed, "You shouldn't blame others," and stood up to stretch. "All of this is Lola's fault. She was evil as a child and is such a wicked woman now." Hiashi chose to use Lola as his scapegoat and said, "I should have known better than to let her come to my place." The one and only Lola Uzumaki yelled, "What are you talking about, Hiashi?" Hiashi lied and said, "I wasn't saying anything, Lola." She smirked at her father's cowardice. "I thought we were supposed to meet you guys at the restaurant," Hinata said. Naruto entered the kitchen carrying food for Hinata and said, "We came back since it was taking you guys so long, but I brought you food, sweetheart." "What about me?" Hiashi complained. "What about you?" Lola and Naruto inquired. "Evil," Hiashi snarled at the pair. "In any case, Hina-chan, I bought you milk and cinnamon buns," Naruto sang as he gave his wife her favorite morning meal. While Hiashi was in pain, Hinata took the food and kissed her husband, causing him to glare. Lola grinned affectionately. "So Lola, what did you do to Ryu?" Run him off already, Hiashi, who enjoyed making fun of her, said with a smirk reminiscent of a younger Sasuke. No you asshole, we ran into Tsunade on the way, and she and him went off to talk for a while, Lola stated bluntly. She cocked her fist back to strike him, saying, and who said you can call me Lola? You did. As a matter of fact you said it while you were drunk and you said it before. Do you remember your words? Hiashi mumbled. Lola recalled saying it yesterday while intoxicated and during their brief conversation, but she didn't care, so she pretended to forget. Lola falsely claimed, I don't remember that, and then struck Hiashi in the face. Lola, shouted Hinata, and Naruto. The twitching Hiashi made her laugh. Hey, not my problem, she said. In other places Tsunade asked Ryu, so have you been? As they sat alone in the old Senju manor they were the only two members of their clan left, but neither of them continued to live here, so this is where they ended up. I've been great, Ryu replied with a broad smile. Lola makes you happy I see, Tsunade said, sensing that Lola was doing something right because her younger cousin was the kind of person who never showed emotion. She is. I must say Lola is a wonderful woman. I'm happy I was able to see that at last, Ryu grinned. I'm sorry I wasn't around to help you out when you got into that mess back in the days, said Tsunade. There's no need to feel sorry for Tsunade, your cousin. I doubt there was much you could have done, and you were grieving over the deaths of Dan and cousin Nawaki. I also thought the outcome was fantastic. I met Hinata, who ended up improving my attitude, and I became an even better master ninja. I also reconnected with Lola and Naruto, rejoined the village, and made more friends than before. Ryu called her by the nickname he used to call her when he occasionally saw her as a child. I'm also happy, so there's no need to say sorry, Tsunade Nichan, he said. Tsunade smiled at Ryu, expressing her gratitude for his words, and her eyes widened. Ryu hadn't called her that since he was 8 years old. Thank you Ryu, Tsunade said, gazing up at the sky, observing the smiles on the faces of Dan and Nawaki, who appeared to enjoy her recent moves as much as she did. She turned her face back to him and asked, is that blonde-hair knucklehead actually a good cage? Ryu responded that he believed the Azukage was the greatest cage history had ever seen. Naruto, yes, he is the greatest cage I've seen in history, and that includes cages from all the great nations and from the smaller ones, Ryu said. What really, even better than my grandpa and the third and his old man, Tsunade responded. In all honesty, Ryu stated, I think he has outperformed all of the Hokages, including you, Tsunade. I wouldn't doubt you for not even a second. Naruto has this amazing ability to do the unpredictable, said Tsunade. Oh trust me I know, he changed you after all, Ryu thought. Naruto had persuaded Neji Hyuga to relent his hatred, transformed Gaara into the Kase cage, brought back the last authentic Uchiha, and transformed a heartless woman like her into a softie and sank down to become the Hokage. Tsunade couldn't help but agree. Tsunade grinned and muttered, damn kid is always finding a way to look better than the rest of his cages. He reminds me of Nawaki, yet he is very different, Ryu said. Tsunade, who always thought of Naruto as a kind of little brother, questioned whether Ryu truly believed that or if he somehow read her mind. Tsunade added, I think so too Ryu, except he very annoying, but she was still grinning. You said Nawaki was very annoying too if I remember correctly, Ryu replied. Of course all little brothers are annoying just like you were, said Tsunade. What I was not. Ryu shook his head, unable to recall such a thing about himself. Since they belonged to the same clan, he still viewed Tsunade as his older sister and she as his younger brother, despite the fact that they didn't interact much because she was much older than he was. Hey. The council meeting will begin shortly, brat, Tsunade chuckled as she made her way back to her office through the Senju compound. Ryu grinned as he watched his cousin vanish the estate of Namikaze. Toshiro's warning, we should probably head toward the Hokage's towers, interrupted Hinata and Naruto as they were sitting in the kitchen, with Hinata in Naruto's lap while he fed her. As Naruto put a cinnamon bun in Hinata's mouth, he questioned, Toshiro was receiving absolutely no attention from him or Hinata. Reminding Naruto and Hinata, I said we should head towards the Hokage's towers, Toshiro said. Still not paying attention, Naruto was licking the excess cinnamon bun icing from Hinata's lips. Still licking Hinata's lips like a savage fox, Naruto muttered, speak up, Toshiro, I can't hear you. Toshiro shouted, Azukage we have to go, loud enough to startle everyone in the house. Gosh, Toshiro, did you really need to shout so loudly? Come on, Hina-chan. Some dumb assistant has to be impolite and shout at everyone. Hinata got off Naruto's lap and agreed, saying, anyway, it's time to get to Hokage's towers. The only times the Izukage didn't act responsibly were when he was with his wife, so Toshiro had to play the responsible one, which he detested whenever Naruto was with his wife. Toshiro stood there in shock, having tried several times to explain that to Naruto and finally understanding it. Naruto yelled, "Toshiro, hurry up, you're going to be late," close to the door, and Toshiro sulked out of the kitchen. Hiashi drew Naruto back to speak with him briefly as everyone was departing the Namikaze estate. "Look, don't think I like you with my daughter. I can only put up with you because you make her happy and I want to start a good relationship with her, but I don't like all this kissing in front of me and stuff," Hiashi stated to him. "I don't like you either, Hiashi," Naruto said with a smile, "but since you are already making my wife feel better about coming here and because she truly enjoys your behavior, I'm willing to put up with you too, father, but you're dead if you break her heart." Hiashi was pleased with the choice his daughter made for a husband, despite his refusal to acknowledge it. "Well spoken, Naruto, and the same goes for you too," he said. Naruto said, "Good, then shall we go," as he prepared to meet his wife. Hiashi shouted, "Yes, but I really want to have grandchildren soon, so I want to say this. Hurry up and make some kids, damn it," as he left Naruto at the door. Even Hiashi wanted grandchildren, which surprised Naruto, but he assumed that was what all parents wanted at some point. Council room. There was a lot of activity in the council room today to start. 3 very close councilmen were upset because one of them had let their cows out and it took them a long time to find any cattle. Another discovered that his flower shop was being used as a piss basket, and another discovered that his restaurant had been broken into and that the most valuable item, food, had been taken from the establishment. The food was then found on the ground a few miles down the road. The Hokage was also not in a good mood. On her way back to the Hokage Towers, she noticed that the kids' park was littered with broken swings and sake bottles, and that she had not been invited to this drinking party that someone must have thrown. She also noticed that phrases like, "Hiashi is the king of the jungle," and "I was here," were written on walls and all over the street. When they woke up the following morning, they discovered that all of the Hyuga guards were unconscious, which was embarrassing for their clan. The other Hyuga members of the council were furious because they had not gotten much sleep and Hiashi had screamed in their ears during the night. As everyone took their seats, a lot of people turned to face Hiashi because they had all read the writings and believed he was responsible for everything that had been done to the village. "Hiashi, you are dead after this meeting," the Akamichi, Yamanaka, and Nara hissed. "I didn't do anything," Hiashi falsely claimed. "Damn you, Lola. I found Hyuga necklace on the ground near the stable," Shikaku Nara snarled. "Oh, that well, look, I'm sorry, but it is the daimyo of Whirlpool's fault," Hiashi responded. "Please do explain," Choza asked. "Hiashi, don't you blame me, I am a guest, I came here to learn of Konoha's beauty and then Hiashi here got me and my Ryukun drunk, then he went about doing horrible deeds," told Lola. "You lying woman. You fucking wench. Wait till I get my hands on you," Hiashi yelled. "Did you refer to me as a fucking wench, Hiashi, the daimyo?" Lola yelled. "I promise you wish I had been as kind as River had been when she discovered your porn collection." As a younger Hinata would have done, Hiashi turned red and said, "You're so stupid, Lola, and it wasn't porn. Wait, how do you know about that?" Tsunade and Naruto both yelled, "Shut up," simultaneously. Lola and Hiashi scowled but said nothing. "Let's get this meeting started. We can deal with the other issues later. In addition, I'll cover all the repairs because I'm positive the daimyo are to blame," Naruto declared. "Way to be a traitor," Lola whispered. The idea pleased the Nara, Akamichi, and Yamanaka, and they were glad to carry on with the meeting. "We are up against Iwa, Yuga, and Otto, as you are undoubtedly aware, and they are currently winning and driving our ninjas back. We could probably get Raikage and Mizukage to assist and subdue the 3 since you were friends with them," Tsunade said. "Nonsense, Hokage," Toshiro protested. "What do you mean?" Tsunade asked. "What he means is the Raikage and Mizukage is not need. Hell, the Whirlpool ninjas in the room and maybe a few of your ninjas and we can take out Iwa, Otto, and Yuga," said Naruto. "Don't get too cocky, Izukage, you don't even have that many ninja with you," Homura told him. "Don't understatement us Whirlpool ninjas, my kind sir," replied Kyo. "I am not ignorant of your outstanding achievements," Homura remarked. "I heard about your tremendous victories in other countries, but you are only a handful. What could you do against 3 armies?" Tsunade went to the window and opened it to let the eagle in after it landed on the window of the council room and then tapped it with its beak to stop anyone from commenting on Homura's remark. The eagle then flew to Hinata, landing on her shoulder, and dropped a scroll it was carrying on the table in front of her. Hinata picked up the scroll, examined the seal, and then gave it to Naruto. Naruto muttered, "Speak of the devil," as he read the scroll. "What is it?" Kaharu inquired. Mizukage and Reikage have informed me if I need backup aiding Konoha in war that they're willing to bring their armies and back us up, Naruto said. That's great, Tsunade remarked. All Naruto did was grab a tiny ink pen from his jacket and write something on the scroll before rewrapping it. Naruto grinned as he returned the scroll to Hinata, saying, "Too bad I declined their help." "Have your eagle send that back to the messenger," Naruto replied. According to Hinata, "Karo, take this back to its messenger. Thank you for your assistance." She handed the scroll to the eagle. Tsunade and the other council members stared at Naruto as if he were insane, but the bird nodded to Hinata before taking off through the open window. Tsunade, not understanding, asked, "Azukage, why did you refuse them?" Koji said, "Allow me to break it down for you," understanding why Naruto had declined. "Please do." Tsunade mentioned, "The daimyo herself is as strong as 3 cages and has brought her guards a group of ninja called Eyes and Ears, all of whom are cage level. The Azukage himself is capable of facing an army by himself, and he also possesses the power of 3 cages. Hinata-sama, the head of Watchers, is an Anbu level ninja and is at least as strong as 3 cages, not to mention Kyuubi-sama. The rest of the ninja here are high jonin, and we also have a group called Seekers, of which there are 2 here and 2 Watchers. 3 armies won't stop us, Hokage," Koji clarified, adding that the Azukage, Hinata-sama, Lola, and Kyuubi had all defeated armies on their own. Naruto remarked, "Koji, you also forgot that I don't like to share my fights." The council members' expressions were priceless. In addition to having forgotten Kyuubi's presence, they were now learning that at least 4 individuals are above cage level and capable of facing an army on their own. The Leaf Ninja who had been assigned to accompany the Azukage here bowed their heads when Koharu asked, "The Seekers, who are they?" "They are the squad," Kyuubi declared with pride. "Hiashi, tell me that is a joke," he said. "Nope," Kyuubi replied. "After that, what will we do with them?" "What?" Koharu said, "Let them be perverts on the battlefield." Jin said, "As we said, don't underestimate us." "Yes, for your information everyone one of the Seekers train especially under me. They are all cage-level ninja and specialize in torturing and killing people in the worst ways possible. They just happen to be perverted, but they will kill you and make sure your death is the most painful thing in the world," spoke in a perilous tone. "I see," Homura said, a little frightened. In reality, everyone who was unaware of the Seekers was. "Yes, don't ever underestimate my ninja. They're unpredictable just like me, and even I don't want to be tortured by the Seekers. They're all 80 times worse than Ibiki," said Naruto. You could hear many of the Leaf Ninja swallowing. Kakashi thought, "I'm glad I didn't laugh at the 2 Seekers once they told me what their name meant," but he wasn't surprised because he and Jiraiya are both strong perverts. "So there is no need to call on the Reikage or Mizukage. We can handle this ourselves," Hinata stated. "Yay, small fish like them should be handled. Let's see, tomorrow," replied Lola. "Sounds good to me," Naruto agreed. "I can smell their blood already." Kyuubi, Jin, and Mazurka all laughed. "Tomorrow," Tsunade croaked. "Yes, we should head out tomorrow. The sooner we get this done the better, right?" Naruto replied. Shikamaru said, "We can't rush in there without a strategy, Azukage." "We already have one," Kyo shot back. "Kyo is an expert in war tactics," Naruto remarked. "Thank you, Azukage," Kyo said with a smile. "So, what's the plan?" Kakashi inquired. "I suggest that all of you Konoha ninjas get ready for battle. Just to be safe, every Whirlpool ninja in this area will also engage in combat." After learning that they intended to invade from the east, we divided into 4 large groups at the battle's edge, obstructing not only the east but also the west, south, and north, Kyo began. "That could be reckless. If anything, it should be 2 groups, 1 to the east and 1 to the west," said Shikamaru. "We have enough manpower to cover it, and that is also playing right into one's hand, so why not? Additionally, we can get more out faster this way. For example, if they don't expect us to come from the back, we should come from the front, but we do in any case. We'll surprise them, giving us the upper hand. If not, we can support ourselves," Kyo reassured. There was no better way to defeat Shikamaru than to attack from all sides, especially if you have the strength to quickly break through the enemy line. Also, we can attack the Auto Ninja and have a few ninja attack Yuga, and your ninja can attack Iwa and have a few attack Yuga also. Then we can regroup after the fall of Auto and Iwa the bigger armies and attack Yuga all together," said Kyo. "This will also give me, a medical ninja, a better chance of healing people because this way we get less injured and I heal less, saving my energy so I can fight if need," Kade stated. "That makes sense," the Hokage remarked. "The medical ninjas would greatly benefit from this." The Azukage remarked, "I would have more space to use my Uzagakugen if we split up." "What do you mean?" Tsunade inquired. The Uzagakugen, my dojutsu can be dangerous when many people are around because the numerous amount people I can trap under my eyes is big, Naruto boasted. Would you mind demonstrating? Homura inquired. If you are asking me to make you suffer and possibly kill you, no thanks, told Naruto. Koharu questioned, you can't control it, for some reason Naruto's Uzagakugen is more powerful than any other Uzumaki, so therefore it is harder to control, but nevertheless you only have a few seconds to stop looking into his eyes after it's active, otherwise you could die, said Lola. The majority of the council members were actually cursing Danzo at the moment because they had lost a strong child who appeared to have amazing dojutsu, and even though they had assisted in his expulsion, Danzo was the one who persisted in doing so when the brat lost it. When Naruto said, I am willing to show you if you're willing to suffer, everyone turned to face the Uzukage. I will do it, Homura grinned. Naruto said, then I suggest we go outside. Let's, Homura concurred. Outside, every member of the council went to the training grounds, but the majority stayed behind Naruto, who was facing Homura, who assumed this would be easy. Kakashi was jumping like a child. Without waiting for a moment to gather his thoughts, Naruto glared at Homura and yelled, Uzagakugen. His eyes turned a deeper shade of blue, and dark, well-defined swirls resembling the Uzumaki sign emerged in them. Homura's lungs felt like they were filling with water as he started to perspire and gasp for air, which caused him to fall to the ground. Naruto knew he wasn't going to die just yet, though, because he could see the outline of Homura's stomach and organs with his Uzagakugen active, and he could feel the acid and water from his stomach swirling like a whirlpool and starting to feel his lungs. It was already halfway to the top, which meant he would die. Homura could no longer even breathe, and he let out silent screams because it hurt so much. He felt as though a whirlpool was inside his stomach, but he was also under a genjutsu, and he felt as though he was drowning, with no one or anything to help him. Homura did his best to breathe as Naruto cancelled his Uzagakugen. Ya see, it takes 10 seconds to capture you and a minute to kill you, except I stopped 10 seconds short from doing so, said Naruto. Homura tried to stand after glancing at Naruto, but his knees gave out. Hiashi used his Byakugan and Kakashi used his Sharingan to investigate the situation, and everyone who had never seen this dojutsu stared in disbelief. They were astounded by what they saw. Deadly, they both murmured together. Well, now I think we both should say this meeting is coming to an end and we will set out tomorrow early in the morning, told Naruto. Tsunade stammered, SS sounds good, still in disbelief that the child had almost killed Homura in just 1 minute before leaving with the others. Naruto paused close to the Hokage. He whispered in her ear, you should stop by tonight, Oba-chan, and then left.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.